And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Popplewell versus Wright step forward.
Melissa Popplewell is suing her ex-boyfriend, 26-year-old James Wright, for a series of loans for personal expenses.
Ms. Popplewell, did you ever live with the defendant?
I just stayed on weekends with him.
Where did you live during the week?
At my parents' house.
So the only place you lived other than your parents' house was with him. Is that right?
Before I started staying with him, I had recently got divorced. So that's why I moved back to my parents' house.
You have children?
I have a daughter.
When you went to stay at Mr. Wright's house, did your daughter go with you?
After we had dated for a while, I started taking her.
Did your daughter have her own room on the weekends at Mr. Wright's house?
Yes.
Anybody else there other than you and your daughter and Mr. Wright?
No.
This is what the case is about. You and Mr. Wright started to date. He had been dating a cousin of yours. He and the cousin of yours had a house that was titled in both of their names. When they broke up, Mr. Wright stayed in the house. You started dating, and according to you, Mr. Wright needed some money in order to get his former girlfriend, who was your cousin's name, off the title to the house, something that he wanted to do and something that you wanted him to do.
Yes, ma'am.
You gave him a total of, according to you, $1. You are no longer a couple. You want the money back. Mr. Wright says that there was never any talk of a loan until after you broke up. It was money that he needed, some for bills and some to refinance the house so that it could be taken out in his name alone. There was, as I said, never a discussion of repayment. And the two amounts of money that you gave him were gifts. That's the defense. Right?
Like I said,
I didn't ask you anything. I asked you if that was right.
Yes.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Melissa Popplewell says ex-boyfriend James Wright borrowed money over the course of their relationship and has never paid it back.
When was the first money that you gave him?
In January, I gave him $2,100.
January of 2011. Where were you when he asked you for the money?
He had asked me for it at his house. We had talked about it. He had a credit card that was due. His former fiancé and him purchased furniture. The bill needed to be paid off with a 0% finance. He didn't have the money to pay it, so he had asked me to borrow it.
Is that what he said to you?
Mm-hmm.
What did he say?
He asked me if he could borrow the money. He told me he would pay it back no matter what happened.
Did he tell you when?
He said after he started to pay off some of his bills, he could be able to pay me back.
So sort of an open-ended repayment.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what happened?
I disagree.
Well, just tell me what happened. I said, is that what happened? If you said no, then tell me no. That's not my recollection. This is my recollection.
No.
Well, then tell me about that.
Well, the thing was, I wasn't really worried about taking the hit on the,
Listen, credit card, January 2011. You remember, or don't you remember?
Yeah, I do remember the credit
Yes,
card.
you do remember. Good, then tell me. Not what you weren't worried about. Tell me what the conversation was.
She was getting hit with the finance.
Don't tell me what she was worried about. That calls for me or you to look inside her brain. I only want you to tell me what you said to her and what she said to you.
Okay,
So you had to start first, because if you had a credit card that was coming due, unless she was some sort of a swami, she couldn't figure out that unless you told her.
Yeah, I had said something about...
Not something about. Tell me what you said to her.
Okay, yeah, I said that I'm going to get hit with finance charges. I got to pay my credit card, but I had never asked her for the money.
I didn't ask you what you didn't ask her for. I said what the conversation was, not what the conversation wasn't.
Just about,
I said to her, I'm going to get hit with finance charges.
Yes.
And the normal person would say, what are you talking about? And then the other person would say, because I have this credit card, it has zero financing up until a certain point, but now I have to start paying.
Yes.
That's the way a normal conversation goes.
Okay.
Now, do you remember or don't you remember? If you don't remember, say I don't remember.
Yeah, that's how the conversation went. I remember.
Then I'm listening, sir. And I have other things to do today. I want you to trust me on that. So let's go.
I said that I was going to get hit with finance charges. She asked about what. I said, well, it was a 1 year, no payments, no interest, and then it was coming up, and that's how the conversation.
And that's what you said to her.
Yes.
And what did she say to you?
She said, that's not good that you're going to get hit with the interest.
And
she says, I can give you the money.
And
I says, yeah. I told her, I said, I'll pay it, in a matter of time.
Great. This is the time, sir. This is the time.
Okay.
In about July of 2011, I let him borrow $1,500 for a refinance on his house that he never did that time.
Well, why would you give him any more money if he didn't give you back the $2,100?
Because before this was all about, his dad had promised me that he would, no matter what had happened, he would make sure that I was paid back the money that I was owed.
Well, I could buy the $2,100. I don't buy the $15,000. Because you haven't gotten any money now in 6 months. He hasn't given you a quarter. So you have no reasonable expectation of being paid back. Right?
Yeah.
So You're supposed to let experience be your guide. Move back, you're living with your parents, you're paying minimal rent, you have a child, it all didn't work out the first time around, second time around, you're supposed to learn from your experience. So you meet a guy, has no responsibility, has no children, nothing but take care of himself, feed himself, groom himself and everything else that he does for himself, right? And he can't put one foot in front of the other without asking help from you. And you have a child, and you have a job, and you have responsibilities, and you have other stuff, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you gave him $2,100 with a promise he'd pay you back. He didn't pay you back the $2,100. Put your hand down. He didn't pay you back the $2,100. So what do? You go throwing good money after bad. You give him another $1,500. That $1,500 is yours. But he just told me that he told you he'd pay you back the $2,100.
No, I never said I'd pay it back.
You want me to play back the tape for you?
Well...
You want me to play back the tape for you? I'd be more than happy to do that, sir. It's exactly what you said to me. You said it may take you time. You remember now?
Well, she...
You remember now?
She had offered it.
You remember now?
Yeah.
Anything you want to say?
Yeah. Can I stand up?
Oh, you better. You forgot the rest of your pants that you were coming to court with today, so you might as well stand up.
I'm in California, so...
I want to tell you something. Even in California, would you go to a funeral in that outfit?
This is
a courthouse.
Any of this money that she had given him was never a loan. It was always...
Sit down. When you go to law school, show me a degree. When you show me your law school degree, you tell me what it wasn't. Sit.
Oh, okay.
$2,100 is what he owes. It's what he said he owes. He said, I'll pay you back when I can, in time. And that's what he said. That's what's on the tape. That's why we record here. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,100. That's it.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Because of what his father had told me on how
It was all false.
they would make sure I got paid back no matter what happened.
She never borrowed him money. It was a gift.
He's a liar.
There was never any promise to pay back.
It was at his house when he told me that.
It was a gift.
Stay away from him. Don't answer text messages.
She don't like me.
Calls, nothing.
Kind of made some mistakes.
Because a month ago he was still trying to get back with me.
We're not all perfect, so...
Because I can't do it anymore.
You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Mr. Johnson, it is your claim that the defendant, who was a neighbor of yours, dented your truck with his fist and then caused you to be arrested. You spent 2 nights in jail. You were subsequently released with no charges being filed. Mr. Collins seems to say that you are a bad neighbor, that he had every reason to call the police, and it was their decision not to file charges, and that he didn't punch your car. How long have you lived in your home, sir?
I moved in May 11, 2011.
And how long have you been living there, Mr. Collins?
I've been there for 2 years, Your Honor.
Do you rent or own?
We rent.
And you?
Rent.
I'd like you to describe the property for me, Mr. Johnson.
It's a duplex, and I park in the back. He's in the rear, and I'm in the front.
Do you have a photograph to show me?
Yes.
I'd like to see it. Do you also, Mr. Collins, have a photograph of the driveway and
Yes, I
where
do.
you're supposed to park?
Yes, I do.
Because this all involves parking.
I don't have one to the driveway.
Why don't you come in and help find it, since you know.
That's not the driveway.
That is your parking spot.
Okay, thanks.
Right here.
Okay, so it's a single driveway, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
And there are 2 parking spots, and the 2 parking spots are in the back.
Yes.
Right.
Now, what I gather is that you fix cars sometimes back there.
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
And sometimes, from what I gather, your fixing cars back there interferes with Mr. Johnson parking his car there.
Yes, ma'am.
And that has been the cause of some acrimony for a while. That be a fair statement?
No, Your Honor.
Well, when you're fixing a car, what you say in your answer is he doesn't always park there. And if he asks me to move the car, I move it.
That's correct.
And on the day of this incident, you asked him not to pull his truck in right away. You wanted to clean up the area because you were working on a car.
That's correct.
That's annoying.
But may I say something?
You can tell me what you want to tell me. It's annoying. I wouldn't like on a regular basis to have to wait to park my car because somebody was conducting business in an unauthorized fashion because this is a residential area.
I have proof from my landlord. He knows I'm a certified technician that work on cars.
Don't tell me what your landlord knows. This is a residential area, and you are conducting a business.
Well, so has he, ma'am.
And he is, well, he may be conducting a business, but he's not conducting a business, and I don't know what his business is, in a common driveway. So what I'm telling you is...
Well, it does, Your Honor.
Hey, what I'm telling you is it's annoying. And you may not like to hear that it's annoying, but I certainly wouldn't like, when I came out to get my car or to pull my car in, to have to ring somebody and say, could you please move your car? I want to get in the back. I want to pull my car out. Could you pull the car out that you're working on? Whatever it is, that's not what he signed on for when he rented his apartment. And if he's conducting a business inside his house...
Well, it's not inside of his house. It was on the property, Your Honor.
Where was it on the property?
The driveway and in the front of the property.
Tell me what kind of business he was doing.
He was doing yard sales, collecting money from people blocking the sidewalks and the driveway.
Okay. And in the time that he lived there, sir, how many yard sales did he have?
At least 7 or 8 or more, until the landlord told him that he can no longer have them.
Fine. So when the landlord told him he could no longer do that, did he stop?
No. No.
Well, first you started to say, yes, you're going outside. You, out.
Okay.
The other way.
He did not stop.
The other way. Other way. I don't know who that is.
My wife.
Well, just got to learn to keep your mouth shut. Here. Maybe not at home, but here.
But no, he did not stop, Your Honor. But as far as me working on the cars, I have a garage space, so does Mr. Johnson. I have a parking space, and I also have a parking garage.
So what was the problem, sir?
That's what I cannot understand.
What was the problem, sir, on the day of this incident, which was on what date?
June 9th.
All right. Going to start with you then. You say there's no problem. So on June 9th, 2012, what were you doing?
I was working on my wife's vehicle that was in an accident at the job, my job of employment.
You were working on your wife's car?
Yes.
Where were you working on your wife's car?
In our parking space, which is behind our apartment at 1448.
So if you look at this, these are the 2 parking spaces.
No, those are the garages.
And where are the parking spaces?
If you see where the gate there is, Your Honor,
yes.
There are 2 parking spots right there. Where the gate is open, right behind that is mine.
So you were working here?
Right, that's my parking stall.
Okay, who parks in the garage?
Well, supposedly he's supposed to have the garage to park his vehicle or his wife's vehicle, which he never does because he's got...
Don't just answer my question. Whose parking spaces are in the garage?
Mine and supposedly Mr. Johnson.
So each one of you has 1 parking space in the garage?
No, we have 1 parking spot behind the fence there, as you got the picture.
I want you to put on your listening ears.
I do, ma'am.
I said each one of you has 1 parking space in the garage. The garage holds 2 cars.
No, it doesn't.
How many cars does the garage hold? That's what
if you look at the picture, there's 2 garage doors, which is a compensate for 1 car each. He has his own spot, and I have my own spot in the wall.
That's what I said, sir. If you weren't...
But there's 2 spots we both have.
That's not what I'm talking about. If you weren't a hothead, I want you to trust me on this. If you weren't a hothead, you would hear that I said exactly what you said. And you wanted to argue with me. I said, it's a 2-car garage. Each of you has a spot in the garage.
Yes, we do.
Now, in addition to each of the spots in the garage, you each have an additional slot outside the garage. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, Your Honor.
Fine. So you were working on your wife's car in this area.
Yes.
And tell me what happened. Be careful.
Well, at that time, Your Honor, me and my wife have a roommate that was moving in. Later that evening, around 9:30, I went up to Mr. Johnson's house to let him know that he can have his parking spot because I had stuff by the fence and tools and parts for the car by the gate.
What are you telling me? He can have his parking spot. Are you Hey, you have 2 parking spots. You have 1 in the garage, you have 1 behind the fence.
Right.
How many parking spots on June 9th were you using?
Just mine, Your Honor.
Where was the roommate's car?
He was in the driveway just as he got there because they were unloading.
So that Mr. Johnson could not get into his parking space?
Yes, ma'am.
At that time, right.
Did he call you at any time and say, I want to get into my parking space?
No, he did not, Your Honor. And when I went and knocked on Mr. Johnson's door, letting him know that we were unloading the truck of our roommates, that he would be able to be back there, and it was clear in 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Is that what he said?
Yes, ma'am. Can I say something, Your Honor?
Yes.
I have a written statement of Mr. Collins. He had been in my spot all that day working on the car.
I'd like to see it.
And late that night...
Just a second. And that's from him.
And late that night, he came up, I'm watching TV, and knocked on my door and said, you cannot get in within 20 minutes. It's highlighted.
No, Your Honor.
And he always working on cars.
Just a second. The whole thing.
Here's a picture. Would make it more clear.
Mr. Johnson, I'm reading something. Stop talking.
I'm sorry.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Neighbor Edward Collins Jr. punched his truck and filed a false restraining order after an argument over a parking space.
Mr. Johnson, I want you to tell me, sir, you parked in the street that day because you couldn't get in the back?
Yes, ma'am.
How long had you been parked in the street because of the work he was doing?
Practically all day, because they worked on cars, and then he went and got some parts. Then he came back. So it was practically all day. It was late that night before I could get in it, but I never did get in it. The incident happened before.
Now I want you to tell me about the incident.
Okay, he came and knocked on my door and told me I couldn't get in for 20 minutes. And I said, look, you always inconvenience me. I never get in your spot. You always get in my spot. And I have pictures showing you where he have a display of where he work at. He got his name and his phone number. I have all that.
I'd like to see it.
Those two. So we went out, and the argument escalated. We started shouting at each other. He's shouting at me. And he got mad and ran and took his fist and just hit my vehicle. And my wife, she heard it. She saw it. I went back in the house. He followed me. She locked the door. He tried to get in. First he said I had a gun. Then he said I had a knife. But on this statement here...
No, don't tell me what the statement says, sir. I just want you to tell me what happened.
Okay, that's what happened. After he hit my car, I went back in the house. He followed me and tried to get in my house. My wife locked the door. He tried to get up the balcony. Two people had to hold him back.
Which two people?
His wife and his friend. When the police came, he talked to them first. I'm still in my house. They knocked on the door. They came out, handcuffed me, took me to jail for 2 days.
Yes. Okay. Now I want you to tell me your version of those events.
Well, Your Honor,
you went up and knocked at his door.
I knocked on his door and explained to him that my roommate and my wife were unloading his truck, and in about 20 minutes, he would be able to park in his spot. He's young. I always make it effing convenient for you. And I asked him, what do you mean? And he just starts yelling and screaming and cussing at me.
Well, what did he say? I always make it convenient for you.
Your white ass. Just like that.
And
started unlocking his front screen door and started, like he's ready to lunge at me. So I started to walk away because, I don't want no fights, no arguments. He's an elderly man. I'm a young gentleman myself. We're neighbors. We're supposed to try to get along with each other. So as I'm walking down the 2 stairs that are on his porch, he starts coming at me, screaming, hollering, and wanting to fight. And I'm trying to steadily walk away. And then your wife runs in the house. And as he comes out, you see something shiny. So my wife's on the phone calling 911 saying he has a gun. Well, comes to find out, then it ends up being a knife.
Well, how did you know it was a knife?
Well, he swung at my chest with it, ma'am.
He swung at your chest with a knife?
Yes, because his wife and my wife were in between the both of us trying to keep Mr. Johnson from stabbing me in the chest. Because she also ripped my shirt in the process.
Who did?
His wife, Miss Johnson. And after that, it started screaming, yelling. The police showed up. His wife was telling him, hurry up, get your in the house, otherwise you're going to talk yourself into going to jail. And when the cops came, I explained to them what happened. And when they got up to the door to knock on him, they didn't even want to answer the door, Your Honor. The police literally asked him to finally come outside. They said, well, why don't you come inside? Well, after a while, they finally brought Mr. Johnson out in handcuffs. They put him in the police car. And then the officer turned around and told me and wrote me a citation stating that I vandalized his vehicle, which I did not.
You have pictures of the vehicle, sir?
Yes.
Would you stand up, please? Ms. Johnson, did you witness Mr. Collins punching your truck?
Yes, I did.
I want you to tell me exactly how he did that.
Okay, after he got...
Make believe the desk that you're standing
the truck was
on
right
is the
here,
truck.
and he said, you damaged my truck. He said, your truck. And he did it like that. He hit it like that.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Did you come out of your house with a knife?
Did
you come out of your house
No, ma'am.
that day with a knife?
I did not come out at all.
Did not come out at all?
Once I went back in, I was there till the police came.
Is that correct?
That's correct, because I restrained him. After they got in the argument and he hit the truck, Mr. Johnson went inside the house. I locked the door. Mr. Collins jumped over the balcony. I was restraining him from not trying to open the door to come out, and Mrs. Collins was restraining it.
Okay. Would you ask Mrs. Collins to come in, Berg, please?
May I say something, Your Honor?
No. Okay, I just have a few questions for you. You called the police at what point?
When I came to the front and saw Mr. Johnson and his wife holding him back, coming at him when he was reaching, trying to swing or stab him, because I noticed he had something in his hand. I've seen him with weapons before.
No. Just listen to my question.
Okay.
Is what you're telling me that you telephoned the police when you saw Mr. Johnson making a stabbing motion towards your husband with a knife. Is
No.
that what you're telling me?
No, ma'am.
Well, then you tell me
Yes.
when you called the police.
When he went back into the house, when he told my husband that he had something for his poor white trash.
Okay. And at that point, you picked up the phone. Where was your husband?
With my roommate standing by their bathroom window.
By whose bathroom window?
In the outside, I could show you on the picture.
Whose bathroom window?
Would be his.
So you called the police. And what did you say when you called the police?
I told him that he was fighting with my husband, that he had said that he was going to get something to take my husband out, and I assumed that it was a gun that he was grabbing. I was still with the 911 operator when Mr. Johnson had come out and started swinging at my husband, and that's when my husband yelled out, "It's a knife. He doesn't have a gun. It's a knife, and he's trying to stab me with it."
Well, there are certain things that you do in your home that are irritants to your neighbor. And one of the things that you do is you run a business there that inconveniences these people. Now, I would be put out as a rentee if I had to park my car in the street, to pull my car into my garage space because there was work that was being performed because somebody was moving, and it happened on a regular basis. I want you to be quiet and just listen.
I'm listening.
That doesn't excuse a temper, his or yours. Now, Mr. Collins, I think that you punched his car.
No.
I also believe that you came out of your house again. I believe that you lost your temper. I don't know why the police actually didn't follow through. There's a possibility that they didn't follow through because nothing happened and they just chalked it off to a bad evening with two neighbors. But this woman did not call the police for no reason. She called the police because she was afraid that her husband was going to get hurt. She thought you lost your temper. So I don't believe you that you didn't come out of your house and didn't have a fight with him, and that you didn't go inside the house in order to get something so that you could fight with him more successfully. It wasn't a gun. Do you have guns in your home?
No.
It's a lie. Sorry.
Do you have guns in your home?
No.
You have a hunting knife in your home?
No. I have knives, but they're not hunting knives.
He's going to pay you $450 to take the dent out of your car. He's not paying you for anything else. I don't believe he had you arrested falsely, sir. I believe that you actually came out of your house because you were so angry that he had punched your car. Put your hand down. I'm done.
Sorry.
That you went inside and you came out and you lost your temper. That's not his fault. That's your fault. It's too bad that you can't live together. I suggest one of you move. That's all. Judging for the plaintiff.
What is our excuse? They step out.
We have a person who's racist, and you're always going to have a problem when you got a racist person there.
He's a drunk. He's a liar.
I'm transgender, and this is pretty much based on hate towards transgender women.
No, that's a false statement.
He don't need to be waiting for no park. If he need to park, he want to park right then and there. So give him his park. He ain't got to wait for you.
If I had a weapon, I would have came at him. I would have definitely intervened, and I'd probably be locked up in jail because I wasn't going to just cut him. I was going to end his life.
Well, I hope that he would stay to himself, and I stay to mine.
Man, you may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Mr. Farias, you and the defendant have a child together, a little boy who I see is about 6 or 7 months old. And the two of you got together for a brief period of time, and it is your claim that during that time, Ms. Tamayo had no place to go. You allowed her to move in with you, and at that time she had several outstanding court fees and costs, which you paid on her behalf. According to you, she was supposed to pay you back for those fees, costs, etc. That's one part of your lawsuit. The second part of your lawsuit really has to do with what you allege is the filing of a protective order by Ms. Tamayo against you. And you say it was really based upon her trying to get a leg up in a custody case that involves your son. You are filing for actually the malicious filing of that protective order by Ms. Tamayo. That requires a couple of questions on my part. Is there currently a protective order?
No.
Is it going to be heard at some other time, or did you withdraw it?
I withdraw that.
So you withdrew it?
Yes, I did.
Then I'm going to hear your complaint, sir. And I want you to both understand that this used to be my breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 25 years. I know all about it, Ms. Tamayo. Do you understand?
Yes.
So let's start out with, when you got pregnant, is that right?
No.
And you have other children. How many other children do you have?
2.
How old?
16 and 20.
How do you support yourself and your 2 children?
I always worked.
What kind of work were you doing when you moved in with Mr. Farias?
I wasn't working for the whole pregnancy. I was cleaning his house.
So you stopped working when you got pregnant?
Yes.
And then you moved in with Mr. Farias.
I only moved in after the baby was born.
So far correct?
No, false.
What was false about it?
She's alleging that she moved into my house when the baby was born. That's the lie.
When did she move into your house?
She moved into my house in September 2011 while she was 4 months pregnant.
Now, let's move on.
Okay.
When were the court fines that you got in trouble with? What were they about?
They were for driving with a suspended license and without a valid registration for my car.
And what was your punishment?
I went to jail for a few days, and then I had a payment plan that I was okay doing. So I was spending a lot of time in his house because I was pregnant.
Don't give me a whole story. I said, what was your punishment? Your punishment was for driving on a suspended license. You spent a few days in jail, which means that it happened to you more than once.
2 days.
Yeah. And then you got fines.
Yes.
Which is part of your punishment.
Right.
He's not supposed to pay your punishment.
I was making my payments.
Well, then what did he pay?
He offered to pay everything because he was being very abusive to me, physically and verbally.
Oh, just a second, Mr. Meyer. I'm going to love this. He was being very verbally and physically abusive to you, so he offered to pay your fines, and you said, okay, you can pay my fines. When did he pay your fines?
Somewhere in October.
And you just said to me you let him pay your fines because he had been very physically and verbally abusive to me.
No, one of those times to prove that he was sorry, one time that he physically abused me, he's like, oh, don't leave, let's work this out. I'll pay for the fines to prove
Just give me the date when he did that.
October 2011.
And when was your baby born?
February 21st.
2012.
Oh, yeah.
So after he was physically and verbally abusive to you and you let him pay your fines, you and your children moved in with him.
No.
Oh, yes, that's what you just told me.
No. Okay, yeah.
That's exactly what you just... I'm listening to you.
Or baby.
That's what you just told me.
Yeah.
Why would you move in with somebody who's physically and verbally abusive to you?
Well, because he had times where he would say that he wanted to make things right for our baby, and I love him,
Yeah, I see that you love him. In any event, they're your fines, your punishment, you pay. It would be like getting somebody to say, well, this is my punishment, I have to go to jail. But I really don't want to go to jail because, I have other things to do. I have theater tickets, I want to go to the zoo. So, Officer Byrd, I'm going to pay you. And you're going to go do my punishment for me, if you would. It's not something he would do. He's got his own theater. That's what the law says. The law says that's your punishment. You deal with it. And if somebody covers for you, you pay him. How much did you pay for her court fines?
$2,132.40.
That's your bill. $2,130. Your costs. Now let's get to the order of protection business. The baby was born, according to you, came home right from the hospital to his house. At some point, you leave. When was the first time you left the house?
April 28.
Just
29.
4/29/2012.
Yes.
And when you left on April 29th, who did you take with you?
My baby.
Because the two of you had a fight.
I couldn't take his abuse anymore.
I asked you a question. You left because you had a fight.
Yes.
No,
Shh. She's going to tell me about the fight in April. What happened on April 28th or 29th?
Okay, I got home like around 8 o'clock.
In the morning or at night?
At night.
Where was the baby?
With me. The baby
you came
was
home
always
with the baby at 8 o'clock at night. Go ahead.
Well, he started complaining about me not being at home all day. And then he started carrying the baby with him and whispering to his ears horrible, horrible things that I cannot mention here to his ear. The things that I can mention is that, oh, your mom only had you to me over. She wants to get child support, but it's not your fault. And stuff like that.
So he was saying things that were inappropriate to the baby.
Horrible. Like, I cannot mention the other stuff.
That was Go ahead.
So I was in tears asking him, please give me the baby. And he wouldn't give it to me. He was laughing, dancing around with the baby. And I said, please give me the baby. I cannot take this no more. I'm going to leave. So he would say, oh, yes, call the police. They cannot do anything to me. Call them. He'll give me the phone. And I was in tears, asking him, give me my baby back. I need to leave because I cannot take this no more. So finally, I called 911. The police came, but they said it was a family matter. I told him, I've been abused by this person. Today, he didn't hit me, but he is doing this, and I want to leave. So he would tell me, you can leave, but you're leaving the baby at home. So that night, because he wouldn't give me the baby, I stayed there. The following day, I left.
You mean when he went to work?
No, he went to the store or something, and I left.
You left and you took the baby with you?
Yes.
And?
Well, I told him before I left that I was going to file for custody of the baby, that he would get his rights, visitation and all, but I wanted the baby living with me because I'm the primary care for the baby. He wouldn't help me at anything around the house. Nothing. I couldn't even take a shower. He would be banging me on the door to get out of the shower for the baby. Okay, so he was never taking care of the baby. So that day, I took the baby with me.
When you took the baby with you, April 29th, where did you go?
I went to my mom's house.
When did you file for custody?
I didn't file. I only answered his petition.
So you filed for custody when, sir?
The next day, she left my house on Monday, May 1st. I filed for custody because he abandoned my home.
Shh. Just answer. When did you answer his case for custody?
Okay, what happened was we met up for him to see the baby, and he's like, do not do this, you know, I want to be there for her baby.
Would you just answer my question? I don't need your drama. May 1st, he said he filed for custody. When did you answer his custody case?
When I could fill out my papers after like 2-3 weeks.
So sometime the 3rd week in May?
Yes. After he filed for custody, he started harassing me with false texting.
Listen to me. I don't know whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. I don't live with him. I don't know. But I know the business of custody. And I know all about filing papers. Because I'm not just a pretty face that they keep up here. Now, between May 1st and the 3rd week in May, you were living at your mother's.
No.
Where were you living?
Well, he convinced me to move in.
Where were you living?
With him.
When did you move back with him?
May 1st, he convinced me, he lied to me, he didn't tell me he filed for custody.
So May 1st, he filed for custody, and you moved back in with him?
Yeah.
And when were you served with the papers for custody?
I was served on May 2nd.
And you were still living with him?
Yeah, and when he gave me the papers, I was going through them. He's like, oh, I beat you to the punch. Hi, he was laughing.
So now you're living with him, you're served with the papers on May 2nd. How long do you stay with him?
Really? When I saw the papers, it was true that I didn't have a place to live. He's like, oh, you can stay here. So I decided to stay there.
But while you were staying there, you answered his papers for custody?
Yes.
And on what date did you file for a protective order?
After I moved out, he was making traffic.
On what date did you file for a protective? What?
August 7th.
So you moved out on August the 7th?
No, I moved out of his house on
June 25th.
June 25th.
Okay. So on June 25th, you moved out, and on August 7th, you filed for a protective order?
Yes.
On June 25th, when you moved out, did you take the baby with you?
Yes.
Did you tell him you were leaving?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so you knew she was leaving?
Not the same day. When I came from work, she said as soon as her son finished school, she was going to leave. I wasn't sure exactly what day it was. I allowed her to get her stuff. I didn't want to argue with her. And she's like, here's the baby. So I spent a few minutes with them before she took off with my baby. I gave my baby a kiss goodbye. And it kind of broke my heart because really the 4-month-old baby at that time.
Just give me the dates.
It was June 25th when she moved out of my house.
Fine. What happened on August 7th?
He was planning on accusing me of domestic violence. I found this paper that he needed to call the police on me and tell them that I was being violent.
So you found a paper
yes.
that he was going to accuse you of domestic violence.
Yeah, and he verbally told me that before that.
Just a second. I want to see the paper.
It's a number 8. He even had a little star on it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Farias says the mother of his son, Blanca Tamayo, owes for court fees, DMV fees, car repairs, and a false restraining order. Blanca is countersuing for the return of belongings.
Okay, so what you did was you found this paper, and what he did was write out what I need to present to the judge. A letter from myself that I'm physically, mentally, and financially stable, and I have insurance for my son through work. Her plans, that he's referring to your plans, that she's going to file for a restraining order if I don't stop the custody battle. And then he says she knows how to play the system. I need to protect myself from this ordeal. I don't trust this lady, and that she already has plans to ruin me. So you found this paper, and then you moved out.
Yes.
And then you filed for a protective order.
Later, yeah.
Now you're going to explain to me and show me proof of what he did.
Okay, he was making threats to me that he was going to take the baby to his house and not let me see the baby to the court order, just like I was doing it to him.
Let me understand. So he was threatening to do to you what you did. I want you to understand that. He was threatening to take the baby to his house and let you have visitation.
No, he said I wasn't going to see the baby.
No, he said,
he told me that
not what you just told me.
No, that I wasn't going to see the baby. That's what he said. He even tried to take the baby July 28th. I agreed for a visitation. I told him, please don't take the baby. You know, you can spend time here at the park with him. Don't take it from here. So he took the baby to the car, handed the baby to his friend in the front seat, and they drove away with the baby without a car seat. And then he was making threats that I was going to regret knowing him. And because the police had to intervene, for him to return the baby to me.
Well, right now there's no custody order at that time in July. Is that
so
right?
He was trying to take advantage
Just
of
a
the
second.
custody order.
So neither one of you had the right to custody in July. Is that right?
Yeah.
I still don't understand why you filed for a protective order.
He was making threats to me because he's
Tell me what the threats were. So far he said, I'm going to take the baby to live in my house, which is what you did. You took the baby to live in your house.
He was going to take the baby wherever he sees me by any means, and I know
show
he's
me where he
abusive.
said that. You have a paper there? Show me where he...
No, he doesn't text whatever can get him in trouble. He told me that verbally.
When was your custody hearing? Date?
On August 15th.
So on August 7th, you filed for a protective order. I want to see what you wrote in the protective order. I want to see. Do you have...
Yeah, I have it here.
I would like to see what she alleged in the protective order.
I was afraid of whatever he
Oh, please, give me a break. You know, you got to play fair and square. You make a baby with somebody. You've made babies with other people before. So, you know, you made babies with somebody. They have the same rights as you do.
I never had problems with
They have the same rights as you do.
Yeah.
A father has no less rights to a child. If he wanted to take off with his son because he wasn't getting along with you and left when you went to the store with his son, you would say he kidnapped my son. That's not. He took his child, just like you took his child and moved an hour away.
Because he was being very abusive.
No, he wasn't being abusive at all. You weren't living with him.
Yes, he was.
You weren't living with him. He wasn't abusive. You weren't living with him. You left on June 25th. You may have gotten by with that act with the family court judge, not with me.
When she left my house on June 25th, she took some of my personal belongings in the garage.
So I'm not getting into that, whether she did or she didn't, but that's why you called the police. Now, when she left on June 25th, you knew she was leaving, but you didn't know exactly what date. Were you at home when she left?
Yes.
I never went back to his house after I moved out. And
Well,
he
I'm
went
asking,
through,
I'm talking about June 25th.
He went through everything that I took. I didn't take anything that belonged to him at all. He is lying.
I came home on June 25th after work, like around 5:30, and I noticed her and her son and her son-in-law invading my garage and getting all her stuff out. So I gave her space and time, and I allowed myself to spend quality time with my son in the living room.
So she was there with an adult male and her 16-year-old son
Yes.
when you came home from work. How long were you there removing your things from the house?
How
many hours?
2 hours because
Good.
I made 2 trips in my Honda Accord.
Now, he was harassing me with calls and texts. Do you
Yes.
have any of the texts that he was harassing you with?
But the threat he was calling me to do him private. He was going crazy saying that he was going to file a police report for me hiding our son, that my son was doing drugs and he had witnessed, and my son saw him park close to my apartment too.
Would you
Before I
kindly show me what he said to you that caused you to file for a protective order 5 days before the custody hearing?
Well, that was what he said verbally, that I was going to regret knowing him.
I agree with you, sir. You know, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's usually a duck. How long have you known him?
10 years.
10 years. And how many protective order against him?
1.
Once. And that once happens to be 5 days before you have a custody hearing where he filed for custody against you. He filed against you, so you've known him for 10 years. He's been physically, verbally, psychologically abusive for you for 10 years. And the time you chose to file, and you say he makes abusive, threatening phone calls to me and texts to me, none of which you have to show me, is 5 days before a judge is going to hear your custody case. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all. Thank you. Your counterclaim's dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She was a freeloader, first of all, and she tried to take the system
I never used the system. I don't even...
to help her, but she got because she had no evidence.
I just did whatever he pressured me to do.
One, I filed child custody. She reported me to CPS the next day.
I felt I needed to get a protection.
Mainly, my whole goal is for the well-being of my son, for us to have a mutual agreement.
I just hope to give us the opportunity to work out a good parenting plan for our son.
Long as he's well off, you know, with food and shelter, and I want to be there for him.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Owens Horton versus Caldwell. Step forward.
Jamie Owens and her tenant, David Horton, are suing David's friend, Michael Caldwell, for stealing a washer and dryer and for trashing her rental property.
Who is the owner of the property?
I am, ma'am.
And you the tenant?
Yes, Your Honor.
This man used to be a friend of yours?
Yes.
Is he still a friend of yours?
No.
How long have you been renting from Miss Owens?
About 3.5 weeks.
Tell me about the property. Is it an apartment or a house?
It's a house.
How much rent do you pay?
$1,000.
Does anybody else live with you?
No.
How do you know Mr. Caldwell?
Just a friend by acquaintance.
You allowed him to stay in the house.
Well, no, he wasn't staying in the house.
He was not.
No.
Well, tell me about it, sir. You were in the hospital?
Yes, I was.
From when to when?
September the 20th until October the 3rd or 4th.
What were you doing in the house?
What he said was incorrect. He gave me permission to come stay there after I got out of rehab. I was staying there for approximately a month and a half, so he had been a tenant longer than 3.5 weeks.
So you got out of rehab, and he was going into the hospital, and he let you stay?
Well, actually, originally he wasn't in the hospital yet. Like, he went to the hospital maybe 3 weeks after I moved in. He allowed me to move in because I wanted to get my life together, get my life straight, and he was a good role model for me in the past, so I figured if I moved in with him, then I would be, like, able to get a little bit better chance to stay clean.
So what happened?
Everything was going good.
He's out. Now he's in the hospital.
Yeah, actually, before he went into the hospital, about 2 weeks before he went into the hospital, Jamie's brother showed up at the door. He had nowhere to go, and we had all been friends before, so...
Where was Mr. Horton at the time?
At the time, he was there.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Is this your brother?
No, ma'am, that's my husband.
Where's your brother?
I have no idea. My brother and I are estranged, and he is not allowed at my premises.
Why?
He is a drug addict.
Did you know your brother was staying in the house?
No, not at the time.
Go ahead.
Okay, approximately maybe 2 weeks after he stayed there, we came home, David and I, separate times. But
You're David?
Yes.
David and I had come home, and there was a different washer and dryer at our apartment. Now, her proceeded to tell us that Jamie came and switched the washer and dryer out.
Were you there when that conversation took place, Mr. Horton?
No.
That's not true, Your Honor. He was there. He
Are you still living in the house?
Actually.
Yes.
That's what this case is about, that the house was a little trashed and that a washer and dryer, that was a new washer and dryer, had been sold, and it is your claim that it was sold by the defendant, and an old piece of junk put in its place.
Yes, ma'am. I have pictures, and it's just, if you see these pictures, I don't know what happened to the house while David was in the hospital, but it seemed like it turned into some sort of junky house. It was awful.
Could that have been from your brother?
It could have, but there's no...
Did you know Miss Owens?
Did I know her? Yes. We met the first time when I first moved in.
When you met, you knew her before, and you knew that this
her stuff was still in there.
It didn't look like this.
Not exactly.
Why didn't you call her and say, "You better get him out"?
I should have, Your Honor.
You should have.
I should
you
have.
Want to know why you should have? Because otherwise, it's going to cost you money.
I see that.
You see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you have the capacity to stop the damage. She doesn't know what's going on there. You're a guest of his, but you know her. You have a relationship with her. Her brother's a drug addict, and you were out of rehab and trying to get straight, and went into David's house because she was a good influence on you.
Yes, sir.
These are all things that you just told me. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And that what you're telling me now is for 2.5 weeks, her drug addict brother destroyed the house and was doing heroin all over the house, and you did nothing? You want me to believe that? That the reason you went to David's house is because you wanted to get straight after rehab. That's the story you just told me.
That's the truth, ma'am.
Yeah. And you sat there while he was shooting heroin in the house and destroying the house and did nothing?
Actually, I wasn't aware that he was shooting heroin in the house because he knew I had just come out of rehab. But he stayed in a different room. Him and his friend.
Give me a break. Yeah.
Your Honor, I have more pictures.
Can I see those pictures?
Apparently, my kitchen burned down as well.
Absolutely.
How.
Your Honor, this picture right here, that's actually not part of the child's bedroom set. That's actually our backboard that we moved in. This, ma'am, I didn't go into Eric's room, so I didn't know that I was there. But that is, Eric caused that.
Who you were staying with while David was in the hospital?
Before and after Dave was in the hospital. Well, not after, but beforehand. Dave knew he was staying there, yes.
But there was no trouble when he was staying there. It was just when the two of you were there alone.
Correct.
Right.
I'd also like to say that I was in the hospital for part of the time that Dave was in the hospital. We actually got out together.
You got where I'm going.
I do.
You do.
Yeah,
I'm glad you do.
I do, Your Honor.
I'm glad you do. You had the capacity to alert them what was going on. You had the capacity to do that, and you chose not to do that. And you chose not to do that despite the fact that you were asking David to be your good mentor after you got out of rehab. You paid him no rent. You needed a place to go, according to you, to sober up. So where did you go? You went to a place and invited into the house and stayed with what she describes as a drug addict. So you go find him. Washer and dryer were $1,500. I'd like to see the value, please.
And the washer and dryer, I actually found out, I promised her father that I would find out who he sold the washer and dryer to. He sold it to the neighbor. Now, she's aware of where it's at right now because I offered to get it back from the neighbor. And the neighbor told me that she said not to.
I told you. Washer and dryer was $13.44. Place was a mess. You living there now?
Yes.
Did you clean it up?
As much as I could.
Great. I'm giving you an additional $500 for the cleanup. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $18.44. You go get the washer dryer back.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I don't really think it was that unfair. I should be responsible for my friends.
Something's better than nothing. I mean, can't really get too much money out of a junkie.
I'm not really too upset with it.
I think it's an unfortunate situation.
It was very disturbing. You need hazmat gear to get in.
I put my trust into somebody to take care of something, figured they were a responsible adult, and turned out they actually had childlike behavior.
I was supposed to stay clean, which, I did while I was staying there, but I let a bad influence into the house.
Get his life back together and lead a normal adult life.
I never found any paraphernalia, but I know the habits because I was there. I did it.
It's just an unfortunate situation.
It hurt my recovery quite a bit. I was got caught in old behaviors, old people, old places.
Get a property manager, background check, credit check.
I have no hard feelings towards the plaintiff. I understand.
Very happy to put it behind me.
I'm sorry for the mess that it was in.
Sir, have a seat.
Mr. Wilczek, you and the defendant know each other from school. You were in college. What college do you both go to?
Santa Barbara City College, Your Honor.
This is what your claim is about. The defendant had an idea of running a party at school, and the profit from the party was going to be, according to you, split between the two of you after you took care of the expenses of the event. The party took place. The defendant pocketed $1,100 and did not give you your half.
That's right, Your Honor.
The defendant says you didn't do any work, you weren't entitled to half, and she has a counterclaim because she said after the party was over, you embarked upon a course of conduct that not only bordered on harassment, but was in fact harassment. So she has a counterclaim. All right, Ms. Kalani, tell me about this party, the genesis of this party.
We were asked by Carbon Monoxide Awareness Group, that is a UCSB on-campus nonprofit organization, to help do this fundraiser at the local venue on campus called The Hub.
Who was asked?
We were, as
Who's we?
Me and Sean.
So the two of you?
Yes.
And who approached you to do this party?
Awareness.
Who knew her?
I did.
When was this agreement made that you would do this event together?
About 4 weeks before the event.
And then I assume you and the plaintiff discussed what your tasks would be.
Correct.
So far, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what were your tasks supposed to be?
I was supposed to handle all of the liaison work with the police department. I was supposed to help with the flyering, poster work that was done, and was supposed to handle all the social media aspects as well.
And the compensation that you were supposed to reach, Ms. Kalani, was supposed to be split evenly between the two of you?
No.
Well, tell me about it.
Okay, well, first of all, that's wrong. Our tasks were to be...
I didn't ask you about the tasks.
Okay.
I asked you what the arrangement was for how you two were supposed to profit from this.
We never had a verbal agreement on...
I didn't ask you about that. Because there's no question in my mind that if you were going to be working, the two of you, and if there was going to be a profit, because you weren't doing it as volunteers, there would have been a discussion on how the money would have been split. Because that makes sense. You're college students, not fools. Right?
Correct.
Well, then what was the discussion?
There was no discussion on us splitting the profit.
I don't believe you. Sorry.
Okay, well, there wasn't.
Sorry. Don't believe you.
There wasn't.
You mean, put your hand down. You mean the discussion that you had with yourself was he was going to work with you and you were going to keep all the money, which is actually what you did, right?
There was no...
I'm just asking you, what you want me to believe is that you two were approached about doing this event for profit, because it was a non-profit group, but you were doing it for profit, and you were going to have him work, but you were going to keep all the money.
He didn't partake in any... All he did was run the promotions.
No, listen to me. That's not what I asked you. You said the two of you were approached to run an event. You knew that there was going to be profit because that was what you were going to do. You were going to collect certain monies at the door. Some were going to go to the nonprofit, but some were going to go to you. And you made up in your own mind that you were going to keep the money because that's what you did.
That's what I did.
So that's what I want to know.
I did keep the money.
I understand that. And whatever minimal amount that you claim he did, he wasn't going to be compensated for. That was the agreement you want me to believe that you had with him. Just a second. Think about what you're saying. You want me to believe that whatever minimal amount of work that you claim he did, you say he isn't entitled to half because he didn't do half the work,
Correct.
he's not entitled to anything. He's just supposed to work and you keep all the money. That's in your mind that this is the way the world works.
No.
Well, what do you think he's entitled to?
I think he's entitled to some percentage.
No! No! That's not what you figure out afterwards. You didn't say to him, hey, Mr. Kalani, you know, he may have been a slacker and didn't hold his weight. That may have been you made a bad bargain and next time you won't partner with him again. But that doesn't mean you come to a court now and you say, well, I made $1,100.
After profit, we only made about $500. I mean, because we had to put money into this by renting sound, printing flyers.
Well, who did that?
I did.
Who paid the money?
I did. Everything's on my card, and I have evidence, and I have the receipts.
Okay, fine. Then that's easy. But you can't come in here and then say, well, you're the court, you figure out he didn't do his half, and I'm not going to give him half, so he's entitled to a percentage. This is what I think he's entitled to. That's ridiculous. I don't believe that you didn't have an arrangement with regard
Yes,
to...
Your Honor. I have evidence as well, that D50 agreement.
I'd like to see it.
Yes, Your Honor.
I have a counter.
I'd like to see it. Well, this isn't an agreement between the two of you, sir.
Correct.
This is just, I don't know who this person is.
Sure.
And they can't conclude. This is from a personal banker.
Right.
And this is to confirm that when the business accounts were created, there was a 50-50 partnership agreement since they were opened as joint accounts. That's ridiculous. This fellow's going to get fired from...
He actually did.
As soon as this program airs, this fellow's going to get fired from...
He did.
Well, just because you open up a joint account doesn't make it a 50-50 partnership.
Sure, but there was a verbal agreement.
Just listen to me.
Sure.
Don't say sure.
Yes, Your Honor.
You don't have your listening ears on. Just because you open up a joint account doesn't create a partnership agreement.
Yes, Your Honor.
It might, but it doesn't. That's a term of art. Now, is what you're going to tell me you agreed with her when you started this project that whatever the profits were, you would split them in half?
Yes, Your Honor.
I believe it. What?
I was involved in all of the business transactions and meetings.
No, you weren't.
I was.
No, you weren't. You don't even know what all the meetings were.
I was there.
No, you weren't.
I was.
The ones that you were at, you were there. But you can't tell me you were present during all their meetings.
I was.
Don't you understand what I'm saying to you? Do you
I
go to
understand
college?
what
You a
you're
college
saying.
student?
Yes, I am.
Pay careful attention. You can only vouch for where you were. You can't vouch for where they were without you. Do you understand that?
I understand that.
Sit. What you said doesn't make sense. What you said initially made sense, that you were approached by this philanthropic organization to run a party. The two of you were approached, not him, the two of you. He wasn't there, right?
No.
Was he there when you were approached?
No, he wasn't.
You see that? You weren't there. Got it?
But he was just a part of...
No. I get the last word. See that? You weren't there when they were approached, when they might have had a discussion about how it was going to work. You weren't there.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Sean Wilczak says former friend Lacey Kalani owes for half the profits from a party they promoted. Lacey is countersuing for harassment.
All right. Now you're going to show me how much profit you made. Make sure I can't find any mistake there.
I don't have any evidence or any... I never got a receipt for how much we made in profit.
How much did you put into your bank account?
I put in $6,000 for a loan that had been taken out to fund this. Sean never put in any money. He put in $300 worth.
No, then that's... Listen to me. Listen to what you just said. Your name is Sean?
Yes, sir.
Sean didn't put in any money. He only put in $300.
Opposed to $6,000 of mine?
Yes! Sean did not put in any money. He only put in $300.
$300 throughout the whole company.
Do you understand? We're not balancing things here. I want to know how much money you put into your account after this event was over.
$500.
Show me.
I don't have a bank account, but I do have the audio for what money we invested into it. I do have that.
Do you have
receipt.
any proof that she received more than $500?
Yes, Your Honor.
Show me. Well, they say that they paid you $1,100 as a fee. $550. Now I'm going to hear your harassment part.
Okay.
Quickly. Quickly!
Okay, after the event, Sean became very dishonest with me. He's hacked my Facebook. He's impersonated me. He's gone to businesses
Well,
acting.
you have
I do
to
have
prove
proof.
it. I'd like to see that he hacked your Facebook.
I also
Did you hack
have
your Facebook?
No, Your Honor.
I have proof on a flash drive that I'm not able to show you because Sean did not know that he was being recorded. But I do have...
Well, just a second, Ben. If I can't see it, and if I can't hear it, it doesn't exist.
I have witnesses that you are welcome to
I don't
call.
believe him.
I have other witnesses.
Show me. Bring
you
him.
want to call them? I can call them.
Your harassment count is dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $550. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I used to hang out with Miss Kalani all the time. We used to do homework together.
He became dishonest. He became very jealous.
Because of all this, the relationship severed.
He became just a very awful person that I didn't want to associate myself with.
All my friends that I've had with her, that are mutual friends, now I've gone on her side.
I'll stand by everything that Miss Kalani said.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of DeJesus versus DeJesus. Step forward, please.
20-year-old Ashley DeJesus is suing her mother, Elizabeth DeJesus, for an unpaid loan and 6 months' worth of utility bills.
How old are you, Mr. Jesus?
20.
This is your mother, and you claim that she owes you money for a loan that you made to her for groceries and stuff for your younger siblings. And then she asked you to put a utility bill in your name that she was supposed to pay. She did not pay it, and now there is a substantial balance.
Yes.
Your mother has a counterclaim. She says that you took her car and wrecked it. She has a counterclaim for $3,000. I'm going to start, Mr. Jesus, with your counterclaim.
Sure.
So I'm going to ask you some questions. When did your daughter have an accident with your car? What year? Month and year?
December 2011.
And what kind of car was it?
It's a Toyota Camry.
And who was the finance company on it?
It was actually my niece and my nephew's dad. He tried to help me because my son is on dialysis.
Just listen to me. Who was the finance company on the car?
It wasn't a financing company. It was with my sister's ex-husband.
And how much was the car?
$3,500.
Now, this happened in December of 2011. Show me payments that you made of $300 a month this past year for that car.
I didn't bring the receipt from the payments.
I don't believe you.
I have notarized papers.
I don't read notarized papers. Okay. I read your answer and your counterclaim. Pay attention. Your answer and your counterclaim is that because your daughter wrecked the car, put that down. I don't read it up here, and I don't read it from back there. You now pay $300 a month for a car that you don't have. And I don't quite understand, so that's why I said I would really like to see your checks or money orders to the finance company who financed this car that you are in fact paying, because then I know if you were a truthful, honest lady, because that's what you swore to, that you were paying $300 a month. So now it turns out that there was no finance company. It was to a friend. And you didn't bring the papers with you to show me where you get the $300 a month from if you don't pay by check. Do you pay by check?
No, you're not.
No. Of course not.
I do have the paper from the crush when I had to crush the car because the motor was...
I don't care.
Okay.
That's not what I'm talking about. Are you trying to throw me off track because I'm an old person?
I apologize, Your Honor.
I'm talking about not believing that you are paying anybody $300 a month for a car that you don't have. That's your counterclaim. And what you didn't bring was any proof that you are making those payments, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
So would you believe you if you were me?
Probably not.
Probably not. So that tells me who you are, because that's what you swore to in your papers. That's your counterclaim, that she owes you $3,000 because you've been paying it off. So I don't believe you. That's where we're starting. You're not starting from a good place. So your counterclaim's dismissed. How old are you?
40.
Your 20-year-old daughter is not supposed to give you money. You're supposed to give her money. You're supposed to, as the parent, put the utilities, her utilities for her first apartment in your name, not the other way around. Why did she put the utilities in her name? Because you asked her. And why was it necessary for you to have the utilities in her name?
Because
Give me the honest.
The honest truth is that my utilities was too high and I needed too much money down to turn it on my name when my house burned. I had a house fire.
Why would you need so much money? Did you fall behind on your utility bill?
I was behind, Your Honor.
Just so you didn't pay your... Just a second. So you didn't pay your utility bill. So you couldn't turn it on in a new residence. Is that what you're telling me?
That's true.
This is the same person who's paying $300 a month for a car that she doesn't have. How much are the utility bills that your mother didn't pay?
It's 6 months' worth. $1,747.96.
Who's supposed to pay that? She doesn't live there, does she?
No.
So who's supposed to pay it? Nobody? I mean, that's how you deal with things.
I was supposed to make that payment, but she did wreck my car, and it was a lot of money. And my son, I needed that car for my son's dialysis. I went through a lot just to get my son to dialysis because what she did to my car. And I still had to make this payment. I make these payments on this car.
You don't have any proof of that, right?
I don't. I could give you the lady's number. You could call her.
I don't call her.
August 1st, 2012, she came to me and asked me, can she borrow $800 because the kids needed school clothes. So she came to me and I gave her $400 for the school clothes for all 3 kids and $400 for the groceries for the month.
What do you do for a living?
I'm an electronics salesperson at Walmart.
Who do you live with?
Me and my boyfriend live together. I'm pregnant with his child. And I have another child, a 2-year-old.
2 kids.
Mm-hmm. I know, I'm done. I hope this is a girl.
Whatever. Enough.
Okay.
20. Till you come into yourself. Okay. Did your daughter give you $400?
$800, Your Honor.
$400 for school clothes?
Yes.
Were you supposed to pay her back?
Yes.
What about groceries?
She gave me $400.
Judgment for the plaintiff, the amount of $2,547. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I had to get another car. My son is on dialysis. I had to drive in. He sees life.
I don't got $3,000 to pay my aunt and her husband for that car.
It was muddy. When I got the car, it was mud from the front of the car to the back.
Oh, and money. I mean, if you borrow money, you're supposed to pay back.
I do anything for my babies and I love them.
I think we're going to be stronger out of it. We will. We're going to be stronger. Plus, I'm pregnant, so she's happy about that. And she's going to help me every step of the way. I know.
She's a good mom.
Great mom. She's a great mom.
Just, we could get a better relationship and just go from here.
Come here, Mom. We love her. She's awesome.
You're welcome.
Mr. Weissman, it is your claim that the defendant owes you some money for a loan that you made to her to do some home repairs on her house.
That's correct.
Am I correct that the two of you, after meeting, were in a relationship?
Correct.
That a fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
You had a home.
Yes.
Your home was in need of some repairs.
Yes.
Mr. Weissman, you agreed to lend the defendant money to fix her home. And at some point, she moved in with you to your home.
Correct.
When did she move in with you to your home, Mr. Weissman?
December 1st of 2011.
That's not correct. November 1st, 2011.
Okay. And when you moved into Mr. Weissman's home, you were living there as a couple. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
And I assume from the fact that the two of you appear to be well put together people, nobody has orange hair or weird things coming out of their head, that you were in a relationship that you thought might be a long-term relationship.
Yes.
Fair statement?
Yes.
All right. Then the idea came to both of you that you were going to stay with Mr. Weissman in his house and rent your house after the repairs were completed.
Yes, ma'am.
And out of the rental that you were going to get from that house, you were going to pay Mr. Weissman back the money for the repairs that you did on the house, because now it's an income-producing property. Is that a fair statement?
Partially.
Oh, it's more than partially. It's not what either one of you two are saying here in these statements, but that's what it sounds like to me. The problem is that the relationship went south before the money was paid back. A statement, Mr. Weissman?
Yes, it would be.
You know when I figured that out, Mr. Weissman? When I was walking through that door. Because I'm trying to figure out these complaints and answers, and nobody wants to tell me the truth. I love the truth. The truth sets you free. Now, when did you move out of Mr. Weissman's house?
End of May 2012, 1 week after my knee surgery.
May of 2012.
Correct.
And in what month did the tenants move into your house?
They moved in December 1st. They had 1 month free rent.
So they started to pay you rent in January?
Correct.
And what was the rent?
$2,200.
A month. And they're still there?
Yes, ma'am.
Where are you living?
I live in Coronado by myself.
So you now have this rental property that you're able to make some money from, and it was owing to the fact that Mr. Weissman advanced you this money.
May I elaborate on that?
Sure.
Okay. When I hear the statement that he advanced me the money, I would like to present to the court, if I may, a money trail that says where the funds came originally.
Where did they come from?
I had an annuity that Mr. Weissman, being in the insurance business, approached me back in August and said, if you let me be your agent on file and take your annuity from annuity A to annuity B, I will get a commission and I will give you that commission. And with that deal, I fired...
And this was in August of...
2011. And I have documentation of...
Just a second, wait. Before I look at it, because if Mr. Weissman is going to make me read those things, and it's as you indicate that he did make money from the transfer of your annuity from one place to another, and if he's going to make me read all those, and I hate to read, but I will if I have to. And Mr. Weissman, did you make any money from the defendant transferring an annuity that she had from one place to you?
The answer is yes. I've been an insurance professional.
No. I don't care. It's not an advertisement for you, Mr. Weissman. The answer is yes, you made money.
Yes.
How much?
About $17,000, of which I returned $4,100 to her.
Just a second. You made $17,000. Now, when you made this $17,000, were the two of you living in your home?
I don't recall if she had moved out as yet or not.
You mean after May? Certainly, while this transaction was ongoing, you were sharing a bedroom.
Yes.
So you made $17,000, returned $4,000. That gives you $13,000.
Which is my profession.
Got it.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
May I?
Now, Mr. Weissman, I want to tell you this. I know that this is really unimportant for you. It is important for me because I'm going to let you tell me your side of the story. I want you to understand, it's sushi today for lunch. It's my favorite. Go.
She was my realtor and sold me the house I'm living in. And she made a very good commission. I don't know the exact amount. She returned nothing to me on that.
And what year was that, sir?
2011, May 9th, I bought my home.
And you were, in fact, not living together?
At that point, no.
No. So
we were dating.
Just a second. When she sold you your home, you didn't move in together, according to you.
Correct.
Until December of 2011, 8 months later, right?
Yes.
But when you made your money from the insurance that she transferred to you, you were, in fact, sharing a toothbrush. Go. I'm still with you, Mr. Weissman.
When I loaned her the money, it had nothing to do with any other transaction. She was going to pay me back in full when her alimony check came in, December 15th, 2011. When the alimony check came in, she ran over her alimony was December 2011. She got over $14,000.
Right, so she didn't pay you back.
Didn't pay me anything.
She didn't pay you back, and she didn't pay you anything back in January.
She paid me 2 checks, one of them totaling $1,000 on January 6th, and the other one February 24th, where she wrote down loan.
Just a second. Absolutely. Because at that time you were living together, correct? And your deal with her was you were going to live together, and from the money she got from renting the house, because the two of you were living in your residence, either sharing or you were taking care of the expenses. I don't know.
Your Honor, I paid all my expenses.
In his house?
In his house.
Well, what expenses did you pay in his house?
My own health insurance, all of my
I'm not
gas,
talking about yours. Of course you have health insurance.
Everything. Like, he didn't support me like a wife, is what I'm saying.
No, but he paid for his mortgage?
Yes.
Did you contribute to the mortgage?
No, ma'am. I contributed to the rent.
What rent?
I paid him 2 months' rent, $1,000 in January and $1,000 in February. He did not want me to put rent on it because he doesn't want to declare it as rental income. He told me, you're not paying rent, you're getting rent, you should be paying me rent. So I put on it loan because that's what he wanted.
No, I don't believe that at all. We're going to get back to the original concept of what I think this case is all about. That the two of you decided to live together. You thought it was going to be a while that you were going to be living together. You were going to rent your property so you wouldn't have any expenses. And from the income from that rental, you were going to return the $12,000 that he did in fact give you. But one of the considerations for that was that you were going to be living together in your house. Now, what would happen, Mr. Weissman, if she had a tenant? You're not living together anymore, and I don't really care whose fault that is. It's probably the best thing. But if she moved back into the house that she had to support, that wasn't your deal. I believe that you wrote loan on that, not for the reason that you said loan, because you weren't paying him rent. Had nothing to do with rent. It was the return of the $12,000 that was supposed to be paid from the rental income from your house.
May I?
Sure.
After several broken promises as to when I would get paid, she finally said, as a licensed realtor, that she would pay from the next real estate commission that she would receive. She had a referral that generated a commission that was paid to her on November 30th.
Just a second. You moved in together, according to you, in December 2011. You made this loan to her at about that time.
Correct.
She was going to pay you back starting the next month. You lived together until May of 2012. She didn't pay you back when she originally promised, according to you, that she was going to pay you back. Is that right?
Yeah, she stopped paying in February.
Just a second. She stopped paying in February. Did you sleep with her in February?
Yes.
Did you sleep with her in March?
Yes.
Did you say, get out of my house? No.
No.
That's your problem, Mr. Weissman. Because if you would stay together, we wouldn't be here.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, Weissman says his ex-girlfriend, Mashi Vafai, posed for a loan to make renovations on her home. Mashi says the money was commission Wayne made when he transferred her annuity fund.
Now, you had an arrangement, and your arrangement was that she was going to give you $1,000 every month until this amount of money was paid off, but that was consistent with the fact that you were going to be living in your house and you were going to be taking care of the bills. And that's how she was going to give the money back to you. And I don't feel sorry for you, sir, because I really don't. Because what happened is it didn't happen. The contract, this oral contract that you had, wasn't fulfilled. She didn't stay with you. And now she's got to rent someplace else because she's got tenants in her house, which means the contract is null and void.
She didn't
and I
pay
don't
while
feel
she was
sorry
staying
for
with
you,
me.
sir, because you actually made from her $14,000, according to you, during the time that you were living together and sharing a toothbrush. $14,000. That more than covers the $12,000 loan. Less $2,000 because she made 2 payments when she was getting rent checks and living with you. So I don't feel sorry for you, Mr. Weissman, at all. Now I can go eat my sushi. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I cannot believe that I had to come to this level.
The money was due and payable. She promised to pay it, and she's a scoundrel.
Compromise my dignity to try to get my justice out of this man.
You don't handle your finances responsibly, as she didn't. She's a scoundrel.
I am just so delighted. I knew that she would come through and see right through him, that he's such a user and a taker.
I hope I never see her again, ever.
Be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat, please.
Miss Holliday, you have a band?
I do, yes.
How long has your band been together?
5 years.
From what I read, in 2011, you played New Year's Eve at an establishment that's owned by the defendant. What kind of establishment do you have, sir?
It's a restaurant.
And your complaint alleges that you made an agreement with Mr. Davis to play again New Year's Eve 2012. The terms of the contract are in dispute, but it is your claim that he owes you the money for playing at the restaurant. Mr. Davis says, well, that's really not true because you brought a whole bunch of people there and they ate and drank and didn't pay their tab. He's got a counterclaim. How many people are in your band?
There are 6 of us, including the sound guy.
Do you have any written contract?
No, just verbal.
Okay. So then why don't you tell me when you discussed with him performing again on New Year's Eve 2012?
Yes, I had reached out to him in October to see if he wanted to have my band again since the previous year had been such a successful event. We decided that we wanted to meet in person, that he wanted me to meet the new manager that I would be working with.
That's this gentleman here?
Yes. We met face-to-face in a sit-down meeting on November 2nd to discuss ideas for New Year's Eve, and that's when I first met Sean. Bob made it very clear that he wanted me to work with Sean moving forward for the event.
Sean is the manager.
Right.
Go ahead.
So we left the meeting. No fees were discussed, that they would come up with some ideas on what to do.
How much were you paid the previous year?
$600 plus food.
When you say $600 plus food, that's food for whom?
All the band members, including the sound guy.
And that was your arrangement in 2011?
Right.
And that's what you were paid?
We were.
Okay. Go ahead.
So on November 20th, I received a phone call from Sean that they wanted to move forward with New Year's Eve. And at that point is when I quoted a price of $700 plus the food for the band. There was a previous incident from the previous year where I sold all the tickets and I wrote him one check for every ticket sold.
What does that mean? Explain that to me.
He wanted to know in advance how many people would be there, and was a different manager at the time. We had a price of $30 per ticket.
Who was supposed to sell the tickets?
The previous year, I did it. They'd never had a New Year's Eve party before. I've played New Year's Eve quite a bit. It's my birthday. I've been a musician all my life, so I had experience in that area. So I had agreed I would sell all the tickets, and I would write him one check for every ticket sold in the previous year, which is what I did. It's at $30 a pop.
And you turned over that amount, 130 times 30,
right,
to the defendant. And you were paid $600 plus your food.
Right.
So you did pretty well.
Yes,
You did pretty
for the
well.
evening, it was fine. Mm-hmm.
So there was good reason to invite her back.
Correct.
Okay.
Because that was not even counting the drinks. It was just okay. A month after the successful event, I sold tickets to friends and strangers, and a stranger had disputed her charges on her MasterCard that had been paid to me that I had gave Firehouse Grill. I lost that dispute to MasterCard, and I had to pay that out of my pocket. I reached out to his other manager at the time. She told me there was nothing she could do. So I took that loss.
How much was that loss? I'm curious.
Well, it was 2 tickets, so $60 plus fees, so it ended up being about $80.
Okay, so you took that loss.
I took that loss. So that's why, when I reached out to him again this year, I made it very clear that he needed to sell his own tickets, that I would not be doing that this year.
Got it.
So then when Sean called me on November 20th to say they wanted to move forward, it was the first time I then quoted the $700, only $100 more to make up for my previous year of loss,
gotcha,
plus the food. He said it was fine. I actually, at that point, emailed my guitar player of the conversation that I just had with Sean, and that it was fine.
What you really were getting is you were getting $100 for each band member for New Year's Eve.
Right.
Okay.
So a week later, Sean calls me with this proposal of $5 per reservation sold. And so I...
Just stand up. That would be you. Yes. You remember that conversation?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So what you were suggesting was any tickets that she sold, And how much were you selling the tickets for?
We had two packages, a $50 package and a $20 package. So I had told the plaintiff that every person that came in, we would do a $5 head charge or a fee for her. So as many people would come in, she would get paid that amount. And I said, for example...
She would get paid that amount?
That amount. So I said, for example, if 200 people showed up, we would give you $1,000. So the more people you and us would come together and bring in for the event, we would both be successful.
And you understood that to be in lieu of the $700 that she was guaranteed for the night?
Yes. Whenever she had the first conversation with me, she said that they wanted $700, $100 more than the year prior.
Just a minute. Did you understand that there had been a dispute about credit card the year before?
No. The only thing she said to me was, last year we got $600, this year we wanted $700. And at that time I said I would talk to Bob, the owner, and let him know that's what you were looking for as far as payment.
Okay. And
then I proceeded to call her the week later, said that we had a manager meeting, and we decided it would be $5 a head. So the more people that would come in, the more money you could get. So if you had 200 people, you could get $1,000.
Well, yeah, but the year before she only had 130 people.
Right, so we were looking for 130 to 150 people to show up.
Well, let's say 130. 130 times 5 is $650. So if you had the same people as last year, she was getting less money.
Well, at that point, I hadn't worked the year prior. I was brand new.
Well, I understand that.
So at that point, I was just kind of relaying the information back and forth from Lori and from Bob.
Okay. Had the party, how many people showed up?
64.
Less than you expected.
Considerably.
Well, but you were also charging more money with a $50 package than the $30 package than you charged the year before.
Correct. We had a $50 package and a $20 package.
The $20 package included what?
They got appetizers, a drink, and then that also covered the cover charge for the band.
An appetizer?
Appetizer. We had appetizers.
And one drink?
Correct.
For $20?
Correct.
So if they wanted to come for the evening, the $50 package was for dinner?
Correct.
Did the plaintiff's band perform?
Yes.
Did at any time you ask her to leave? She was playing.
While she's playing? No.
Did you pay her?
Yes.
How?
We wrote her a check.
For how much?
$700.
Then you stopped payment on it.
Correct.
So the answer is you didn't pay her.
Yes.
She performed a service, the service you requested, and you didn't pay her. That's unacceptable.
Can I explain?
Now you can explain.
All right. The original agreement...
No, don't tell me the original agreement. I don't want to hear original agreement. I want to hear service performed and why you didn't pay her.
Our basis on failure to perform, basically she was going to promote the exact same way she was last year. I have the emails here from her.
I would like to see the emails from her. I want you to go through these emails, sir, and I'll sit here, I'll go in the back and have a cup of coffee, I'll play gin, I'll do something else. I would like you to go through those emails. I see that she says she'll advertise on a Twitter, she's got friends asking about it. I want to see the contract where you allege that she says her pay will be $5 a head. Let me see. Come on.
There is not a contract stipulating $5 per head, nor is there a contract saying that we would pay her $700.
Well, let me tell you, even based on the theory of what we like to call, in my trade anyway, quantum merit, which means you get paid for work performed, the amount of $700 or $100 a person for her band and her sound man is a more than reasonable amount of money to play New Year's Eve. You had said it was more than a reasonable amount of money the year before when you engaged her and actually paid her $600. Well, people don't make less as they progress, they make more. You know, my father always had a statement. He said, the measure of your success is the older you get, the less you work for more money. That has been my goal. Good statement, right?
I like that.
This lady says, I worked, I'm entitled to be paid. So far you have no defense from paying her. You have any other defense? You want to get to your counterclaim?
I'd like to continue on with that defense. Basically, last year, we paid her $600 based on her collecting all the money, bringing all the people in.
Get your own advertising firm. She's banned, and she says, I'll reach out to my friends, I'll put up a message on the singles board, I'll do all of those things, and if you're the businessman, sir, you have a manager, you pay people on the books, you write out checks, you have a contract, and what I'm telling you is, you're going to pay her. Period. Unless you have a reason not to.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, singer Lori Holiday says restaurant owner Bob Davis owes for her New Year's Eve performance fee. Bob is countersuing for an unpaid restaurant bill.
Now, The only thing that I see in your answer and counterclaim is that you came with a whole bunch of people who drank and who you fed that you didn't pay for. How many people other than the band did you bring?
I'm not even sure.
Did they have package tickets?
They all told me that they all bought the package tickets, yes.
So is what you're saying, sir, that she's responsible if somebody else steals from you?
They were part of her group, and they basically had said, we're with the band, therefore they were told that they didn't have to pay.
Who did they tell that to?
Our servers and managers.
That's hearsay. You can't hold her accountable for that. These people told her that they had paid the package. It turns out that they didn't. You owe her $700.
Your Honor, the premise for this whole agreement between us was based on what she had done the previous year.
That may be in your mind, sir.
That was in her mind as well.
Well, that may be in your mind. You got the benefit of 64 people eating, drinking at your restaurant with entertainment, because I am certain that the tickets that you sold said that there would be live entertainment. Correct?
Yes.
Yes. And she provided...
Live entertainment.
Right. Now, she provided the live entertainment for which she is entitled to be compensated, just as if the 64 people came into your restaurant. We're not talking about her friends. We're talking about the 64 patrons that came in and paid either $20 or $50 for a ticket, mostly $50 because it's New Year's Eve. They didn't want just an appetizer. Would that be a fair statement, Joan?
That's correct.
Yes. So most of them paid $50. They paid $50 and they got dinner, a drink, and a live band. And you got the money. Now, you may not have made as much money as you wanted to make. You made more than if you didn't have the 64 people, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So she gets paid. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $700. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The plaintiff was totally drunk at that time.
I've never heard that ever. He just made that up. I've never heard that ever.
Basically, she was screaming at the top of her lungs at our general manager.
I was angry because they told me they weren't going to pay me.
Basically wrote her a check just to get her out of the building.
I'm just glad it's over. Because there's a lot of things that he said were just not true.
In the summer of 2012, did somebody trash your house?
The morning of June 15th, June 16th.
This is what I gather. You were out at some club or something with this young lady who was a good friend of yours.
Correct.
Why don't you stand up so I don't have to move my eyes? Perfect. So you two ladies are out at a club. At the time, your name is?
Michelle Beck.
Michelle, this was your boyfriend?
Yes.
He wasn't there?
No.
At the club, or after the club when you left, there was sort of a kerfuffle between the two of you.
Correct.
She says you were a little drunk. You were driving.
Correct.
And you weren't drunk.
I was not drunk.
And you got into it, and it became physical and nasty between two girlfriends. At some point, police were called to break up this kerfuffle.
Correct.
And you said, I'm not taking her home. But as her friend, you called the boyfriend, whose
Correct.
name is?
Warren.
Warren. Did you call him, or did the police call him?
I called him.
And said, Warren, you better come and pick up Michelle, because I'm not taking her home, because we were just in a fight. And you left. Where did she leave you?
On the side of the 50 freeway.
And you came and picked her up.
Yes.
You were in your car with several other friends that you were driving home, and you drove them home. When you got back to your house, you found that your house had been burglarized, trashed, and pretty much destroyed. The person who broke into your house, clearly at some point of either exiting or entering the house, cut themselves, so there was blood all over the place. The police were called, actually took some blood samples. Now I'd like to see the police report, because it is your claim that Warren, probably because he was angry that you left his girlfriend on the side of the freeway, trashed your house.
Correct.
That's what the case is about. Easy? Mm-hmm. You all get it? Yes. Did I leave anything out?
Not at all, ma'am.
So while they collected blood samples at the scene, since DNA testing is very expensive, according to the detective, they opt not to take a DNA sample of the defendant in order to compare the sample that they have to the sample that they would get from the defendant.
Correct.
I have a bigger budget. So just for giggles, Warren,
yes, ma'am.
How about you giving?
I don't mind.
Great. We'll take that over.
Okay.
And we can send it over to the crime lab in Sacramento.
Okay.
Now, you don't know exactly who broke in, but you think it was Warren. You're not his girlfriend anymore. You want to tell me what happened after Warren picked you up on the side of the freeway?
He didn't pick me up. He got dropped off. The cops were there, and they actually took us home. He was
Explain that to me.
He was out with a friend that night, and his friend was driving. His friend then dropped him off to where I was on the side of the freeway with the police.
So now you're both on the side of the freeway. Were you living together at the time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the police take you home. And
my babysitter was there because I have a 2-year-old son. She consoled me as I came in the house. I was hysterical. I was barely able to communicate. She got me into bed. She crawled into bed with me. Warren sat on the bed next to us and put his gym shoes on, and I was begging and crying and asking him not to leave and asked him where he was going. He would not tell me. I continued to cry and laid on my bed and fell asleep with my babysitter, and he left, and I didn't know anything about it. I just fell asleep. That next morning, I woke up with my babysitter in my bed. I had noticed Warren was asleep on our couch. I had my babysitter take me straight to Tasha's house because she had my car keys, my cell phone, and my credit card. My car was downtown. I left with her because I had been drinking and I didn't want to drive. So I went straight to Tasha's not knowing anything had happened to her home. I show up there and her front windows were smashed in. I go inside the house and I owed her $40 from that night before, and so I had $40 to give her, and she gave me my credit.
And an apology, I assume.
Well, for the house?
No, for what happened the night before.
Maybe.
What do you mean maybe?
Well, she was super upset her house was demolished. There weren't a whole lot of words exchanged between us because she was erratic.
But what I'm gathering is that you had a physical altercation. She dropped you on the side of the road. You were hysterical crying. Were you hysterical crying because you were drunk or because you were upset?
Because I had been beaten.
By whom?
Her.
Okay, so you had been beaten by Tasha. That's what you told Warren.
I didn't tell him. He knew when he showed up. I wasn't really able to communicate. I was in hysterics crying. Like I was barely able to breathe.
Now this 2-year-old that you have at home, who was the father of that child?
Brennan.
Not Warren?
No.
So you went over to her house after she beat you the night before to get your cell phone and your keys and to give her $40. You see the broken window. Go ahead.
I proceed into the house where there's broken glass everywhere, blood everywhere. Her bird cage is knocked over. Her mirrors in her bathroom are shattered. Her TV's on the floor, broken. I got out of there pretty quickly because she was really upset and I didn't really know what had happened.
And?
I got my stuff back from her. I went home and Warren had woken up and was standing there with a white towel that was covered in blood over his right arm.
How'd you hurt yourself, Warren?
Well, I don't know what she's talking about, but that night, you want me to tell you about the night?
Now, I want you to tell me how you hurt yourself.
Well, I don't know what she's talking about.
You mean you don't know what she's talking about? That you?
She said I had a bloody
towel
wound. Yeah, I don't know what she's talking about.
On your arm?
Yeah.
Yeah?
You should ask to see his scars. They were broken over her bedroom window.
Well, we don't know that yet. We haven't gotten there yet. You mind showing me your arm?
She's probably talking about... Yeah, I don't mind.
Good.
I know what she's talking about. She's talking about a football scar that I got years ago. So...
Okay.
I nursed that wound back to health, and I took him to the hospital a week later to Kaiser off Morris in Sacramento.
Really? Mm-hmm. Oh, well, they would have a record of that.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
If she took you to Kaiser to dress that wound, that wasn't a long time ago. So
no, it wasn't. It was in June. It would have been on like June 25th. So then we're talking about the third week in June. Well, that's easy, Mr. McGee. Without getting into issues, you can have Kaiser fax us over a list of your appointments in June of 2012.
Exactly.
Did you have any appointments with Kaiser?
Yes, he did. He went into the emergency room where I waited and I drove him.
You could check.
Great. I think we're going to do that. Okay. Step out, stay close, because they're going to need your permission to fax it over to us.
Okay.
Great. Out. You're excused. We'll call you back.
Case will be recalled. Step out.
And get that DNA sample at the same time.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. From earlier today, Latasha Cabrero says her friend's ex-boyfriend, Warren McGee, ransacked her home and destroyed her belongings. Warren is denying the charge.
That's a recall of case 436 in the matter of Cabrero versus McGee. Parties are reminded you're still under oath.
Okay. When we were last here a moment ago, you were going outside to get the records from Kaiser. Because there were no witnesses to the trashing of the plaintiff's house. Your not any longer girlfriend said that a week after this incident, which happened on June 15th or 16th, she took you to Kaiser. So what I did was ask you to get me Kaiser's records to see if you were in fact there. That way it would help me know who's telling the truth. Do you have those records?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see them, please? You were there.
Yes, ma'am. May I explain?
Yeah, it's a little late for an explanation.
It's just a big coincidence. Basically. She's using a coincidence against me because of our breakup.
No, accidentally cut arm with glass 3 days ago.
That's hard to believe. I've texted.
Accidentally cut arm with glass 3 days ago. That's what it says here.
I'm a window cleaner.
Listen,
He doesn't have a job.
Warren, sometimes there are things that happen serendipitously with no logic to them. It just happens. But my experience is that when I have to balance serendipity with logic, I'm always more comfortable with the logic. So let me tell you what I have. I have these two girls that got into a big fight, and at the time, you were really tight with Michelle over here. She was all kinds of hysterical when you picked her up. According to her, she was just beaten up by her best friend and left on the side of the road. That's what you found when you got there. I want you to be careful, Warren, of women's hysterics, because the hysterics turned into non-hysterics the next day when she went over there to get her keys and to give her $40 that she had borrowed. So the hysterics left her along with the alcohol. But she got you all worked up when she crawled into bed with her babysitter. So the serendipity of the fact that somebody broke into the window, cut themselves, bled all over the place, and a couple of days later you found yourself, Kaiser, with a cut on the arm that you told them that you got from glass is a little too serendipitous for me, Warren. Now, you did take a DNA swab back there, right?
That's right.
Probably a big mistake, because I don't know what the police are going to do in Sacramento, but if we send them the DNA swab and it matches up with yours, that not only gets you in trouble here, but that gets you in trouble in Sacramento. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's not a good thing. You have any pictures of the damage to your house?
I do. I only have photos from afterwards because during...
Well, I can sort of get an idea.
Okay. I also have black and
Too
white.
late for laceration repair. So you waited a couple of days. Shh. Michelle, when did you and Mr. McKee no longer live together?
Beginning of August.
So that you knew, as a matter of fact, that he was the one who had burglarized and trashed her house?
Yes.
In June?
Yes.
When did you tell your friend about it?
End of August, beginning of September.
Why didn't you tell her before?
I was upset with her over what happened between her and I was fearful of Warren. I was stuck in the middle of both. I was fearful because he had access to my home where my child stayed, everything of mine. And I felt slightly guilty because he had done it on my behalf. I was really stuck in a horrible spot.
Those are all honest answers. I accept them. Warren, you had a hissy fit in this house. This is really nothing but just destruction. What is this? What are you showing me in this sink?
It was either he tried to kick the top of it so it cracked right there, or he tried to pull off the sink and it cracked right there. You can see the crack on top of the...
And that was not there before?
No.
Is this your home?
I rent it, yes.
Are you still there?
I am still there. Only because I didn't have any money to move, because I was scared to death of living there. I didn't know who did it.
Have you received any notification from the landlord about the damage?
As far as receipts?
To the sink?
No.
And what items were destroyed in the house?
The front window, my bedroom window, my TV, my...
Who fixed the windows?
My landlord. I have receipts from him.
Well, he hired someone to.
Shh. Sit. Did you pay the landlord for them?
No.
It's not your cost. Go ahead.
The cabinet door in the bathroom, and then he flipped over my bird cage. I had a huge bird cage.
I want to know what you can prove was damaged that you paid for TV.
Correct, a TV, and then I guess I was coming on behalf of my landlord because he
No,
paid.
you can't
but it
come
was
on
going to come out of
behalf of
he told me it was going to come out of my deposit if I didn't pay back the funds for what happened.
No, you didn't destroy it. He did. Mr. McGee, let me tell you what happened. She knew who went into her house. But when you burglarize somebody's house like this and trash it, you never have a safe feeling again in your house. That's not a good thing. That's not a smart thing. You got to keep your temper in check. Have you ever been arrested?
Yes.
Have you ever been in jail?
Yes, for one night.
One night. For what?
Fight.
Fight. Got to find yourself a good anger management place and not let somebody else push your buttons. She pushed buttons, but it was your button, and you caused the damage. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all. Step out.
Please excuse me. Step out.
We just got into a physical altercation over a really dumb situation.
He just went on a rampage with anger and destroyed her home, and I wish he would have been honest and told the truth.
Her friend beat her up, jumped her with 3 other guys, and she's still her friend. I don't understand.
It was an argument over...
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Carr versus Colvin. Step forward.
Matthew Carr is suing his ex-fiancée, 25-year-old Lindsay Colvin, for the return of his engagement ring, his video camera, and his dog.
Mr. Carr, the defendant was your former girlfriend, and you say your fiancée. You separated, and you say that when she left, she took the ring, a band that went along with it. She took a camera or video equipment that belonged to you, as well as your dog.
Yes, Your Honor.
You want all three back.
Yes.
Let's start with the ring. May I see it? Oh, well, that would be a lovely ring. And this is a ring, by the way, that you haven't finished paying for.
Correct.
Okay. You want to tell me the circumstances surrounding you giving her the ring?
I gave her the ring on 11/11/11 when I proposed to her.
11/11/11.
Yes, ma'am.
Where were you?
Natural Bridge, Virginia.
Were you at your house, her house?
No, it was about 3 hours from where we live. We took a trip out to the mountains, spent a weekend in a cabin.
And it was a surprise?
Yes.
Is that right?
I knew it was coming, but yes, it was still a surprise.
Okay, well, and you're not together anymore and you didn't get married, right?
Correct.
Then the ring is his, not yours. Would you give it back to him?
Sure.
Perfect. Now you have the ring back.
The missing wedding band?
I don't know anything about the wedding band. What's the wedding band?
I don't know anything about the wedding band. I never had the wedding band or saw the wedding band.
The wedding band was in a box on my dresser. It is now missing along with lots of other stuff.
Well, that's the ring you got back. I suggest you do whatever you want to do with it. You're going to finish paying for it. Okay. Now let's deal with the video equipment.
The video equipment I purchased before my daughters were born, who are now 6, before I knew Lindsay. And it is also missing from my house, along with my daughter's Nintendo DS. Just
Well, but that's not in here. All I know is that what you're suing for is the video equipment. Where is it?
I don't have it. I haven't seen it in quite a few years.
There's a long list of items. That's one of them. She's admitted to me on the phone that she has it, and she's given me justification for all these things of mine that she has stolen.
Well, give me the justification for the video equipment. What did she say about the video equipment?
Well, it's all the same justification
Which was?
that I owe her because she's the one having to start over, that she's wasted 4 years of her life.
Well, I'm not interested in that. All right, you got the ring back. Let's move on to something else. You want to talk to me about the dog?
I have every form of ownership.
Give me the date that the dog was purchased.
February 17th of 2012.
What kind of a dog is it?
It's a Great Dane.
According to you, you paid $1,400 for the dog?
Yes.
Okay. You took the dog?
I paid for the dog.
Show me.
My tax return was put into his account approximately 4 days after the dog was here because we were going to wait for the dog to get here before we paid for her, but because she was already 8 weeks, we decided he was going to go ahead and take a title loan out on his car so we could purchase her early and have her, so she was under 9 weeks when we got her because we weren't sure if we were going to do her ears or not, and you have to do that really early. So I have the amount and his bank account.
Did she put the money in your account for the dog, sir?
It was not put in my account for the dog. Lindsay
What was
and
it put in the account for?
I've taken care of Lindsay. I've been her sole provider since August of while she's been going to college. I've provided her with transportation. I've paid all of her bills.
Okay.
That money went into the account.
Well, you've been doing that since August. You've been doing that since August of 2011.
Right.
That was your agreement. You were going to take care of
And
it.
that's what that money was for.
Well, you tell me that.
And
she
that
tells
money
me
was after the dog was
She tells
purchased.
me a very cogent story that you were going to wait for the dog, but because you were going to take out a title loan on your car, she said, no, I'm going to put this money in the account so we can get the dog now.
I took the title loan out on my car to buy the dog.
You did?
Yes.
I'd like to see
I had my
it.
bank statement.
I'd like to see it. Mr. Carr, that would convince me.
Okay.
If you took out a title loan on your car for the amount of the dog, that would convince me, sir. And then I would absolutely believe that she put this money into your account because she had to pay at least some of her own expenses.
This is the bank statement showing the deposit. I have the paperwork for the actual loan in my bag that I can get, but this is $1,900 that was put in on the 15th that provided funds for the dog.
No. Listen to me. You said I took out a title loan on my car.
I did.
I want to see that.
Can I get it?
Absolutely.
Okay. Here's the paperwork on the title.
On what date was the dog purchased?
The 16th or 17th.
Okay.
That money was deposited into my account on the 15th. This bank statement here supports that.
Got it. Dog's yours. You want the dog or you want the money?
It's perplexing because I've gone so long without the dog.
Yeah, the dog's been in her care since February. You want the dog or the money?
I want the dog. I don't know how I'm going to get the dog because
Yeah.
she's been in hiding. It's been tough.
Well, what? I don't believe you paid for the dog.
I did pay for the
I
dog.
don't believe it.
We weren't going to get the dog because we couldn't afford the dog without my tax return.
I got a $4,000
Listen
tax
to me.
return a week after.
I believe he purchased the dog, and I believe that the money that you put in the bank account was to help pay for some of your own
He
expenses.
wouldn't allow me to work.
Listen to me. Nobody allows anything. If somebody says to you, you can't work, you want to be my girlfriend, you can't work, I would say ta-ta and goodbye to you.
I
Put your
traded
hand
in my
down.
car.
Ta-ta and goodbye to you. Don't
I
tell me
traded in
what
my
I
car
can't do.
onto his new
It's
car,
his
which was
dog.
supposed to be mine,
It's his
and
dog.
he would not let me drive it.
However, we're talking about 5 months later. Go buy yourself a new dog.
Okay.
Great. So you have your ring and you have your $1,400 that you paid for the dog.
Thank you.
We're done. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm pretty upset because the dog was supposed to be not only a gift, but I ended up paying for it.
I wish I could have got the dog, but I'm happy with the value.
The dog's mine. I get to keep the dog, and if I have to pay him, then so be it.
We shouldn't have got engaged.
It was stupid for us to ever get engaged.
There's two parties to blame here for everything.
It's made it a lot easier not to have any involvement.
You didn't have a seat, please.
Ms. Koza, you didn't do what you were supposed to do because you allowed a romantic relationship to interfere with your good judgment, and you allowed Mr. Burns to use your credit when you were dating to buy a car and, according to you, a television set. You stopped dating. Mr. Burns took the car. He continued to pay for a period of time on both the credit card for the television set and for the car, and then, according to you, he stopped. In what month and year did you stop making payments on the credit card and the car?
March 2012.
And why did you stop making payments?
I had to put a new transmission in the Subaru 3 months prior, and I used all my financial aid. I'm a full-time student. So I had to live off the money that I was making, so I didn't have the ability to pay the bill.
So how many months delinquent were you?
30 days. The Best Buy was 60.
So 1 month on the car and 2 months on the Best Buy card. You also didn't have the car properly registered.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's correct.
And how delinquent was it in being registered?
Almost 6 months. I was waiting to pay for the catalytic converter in order to get a smog because it's in California.
That's not Ms. Koza's problem. That's your problem. The fact is you visited on her because the car is in your name?
It's in both of our names.
The credit is in your name?
It's 50-50.
Well, it's not 50-50. They're going to come after the one who's working. Are you working?
I am.
What do you do?
I'm a substitute teacher looking for a teaching job, and I nanny on the side.
And what do you do?
I'm a full-time student. Going to school to get my teacher
Well, then
credential.
they're going to come after you because you have a job.
And that's what they told me.
Yeah, of course. So you got pulled over. Your car wasn't registered. They impounded the car. Ms. Koza got the car out of impound, paid the parking tickets. You also had parking tickets, right? That wasn't because you had a bad transmission. That's just because you parked where you felt like it.
Yes.
And you also didn't pay the parking tickets.
I was going to pay the parking tickets, but she'd picked up the car and paid them before I had knowledge of it.
When you get a parking ticket, you pay it. And if you didn't have enough money to
But if
fix
you don't have the
car,
money, you can't pay it.
That's not her fault. Don't take the car.
$3,400 for a transmission.
Listen to me. That's not Ms. Koza's problem, Mr. Burns. I know that you want to say it's somebody else's fault. How old are you?
28.
28-year-old man should not be a full-time student if he has bills to pay. He should be a part-time student and a full-time worker bee. Or at least a part-time worker bee and a part-time student, or any configuration thereof. But a 28-year-old man who has bills to pay, who has indebted somebody else for him, doesn't sit back and read his books all day. He works and doesn't rely on the largesse of others, which probably in this case includes family, friends, and student aid, which is, of course, us. Now, Ms. Koza, you want what he owed you on the Best Buy card.
Correct.
How much did he owe for the TV on the Best Buy card?
For the Best Buy card, he owed $1,300, and I have proof that it was in collections for the last 4 months, which I was not aware of. And the bill was $1,300, and so they did a settlement for me because I just had a breakdown. I don't make a lot of money, and the settlement for $752 was paid. And so that
you got a bargain, Mr. Burns. $752.
But again, I didn't ask her to pay it.
I don't care whether you asked her or not. What would you like her to do? You'd like her credit score to be 0? You would like her credit score to be goose egg?
No, I told her when stuff was going on. I would have the money in 2 weeks.
Mr. Burns, you don't have money because you don't work. Get a job.
That's not always true.
No, get a job. Get a job. You can't say, honey, I don't have any money. If I had it, I would give it to you. Sounds like some relatives I know. What I'm telling you is people get money by working. By the time you're 28 years old, you should have figured that out. That's how Bird makes a living. That's how my cameraman makes a living. That's how the people that run the lights make a living. Everybody who wants to earn money works.
I worked for a long time before going back to school.
Well,
you know?
just a minute. You worked for a long time. You're 28 years old. You tell me that you worked a long time
Graduated
when you're
from
70 years old.
And I went back to school, worked full-time, and went to school full-time until I was 26.
And then what happened?
I went to the University
You retired?
of California, Santa Cruz. No. I ended up in Santa Cruz.
$2. What did you get to get the car out of impound?
What I had to do to get the car out of impound.
Just tell me how much you paid to get the car out of impound, including the parking tickets.
A total of, to get it impounded, I had to do a number of steps, pay tickets,
Just a
registration.
second. Give her this, please. All I want to know is how
sorry.
much she paid to get the car out of impound.
Your Honor.
I had this already.
She took my car that I'd been paying on for 4.5 years.
That's too bad.
No, but she took my car and left me carless.
Good. Get a job, go to school, take 6 credits, and get a job full time.
Doesn't
and then
work
you'll
like
have enough
that.
money
It
for
does
a
not
car.
work like that. You don't get financial aid after 6 credits. You can't support yourself.
Okay.
You either got to go in all the way, or
Tell
you
that
can't
to
go
Abraham
in.
Lincoln.
I think times were different back then.
No, people were different back then, Mr. Burns. Times were the same. People had to get up, they had to eat, they had to have a roof over their heads, they had to pay for some sort of fuel to heat their house. The only difference is people got soft.
70 cents. So
70 cents?
Well, it was part of that. I'm sorry. So $2,229.70 is what I had to spend to get it out.
That's all I want to know.
Okay.
Your problem, however, with regard to part of your claim, Ms. Koza, is as follows. You want him to pay to have the car repaired so you can sell it.
May I interject for one moment?
Yes.
That was the total cost in order to get permission to then drive an hour and a half away to get it out. When I was once there, I had to pay an impound fee and police fee, which together, so this would be addition, is $519.
I don't understand. What's the $2,200 for?
That is for parking citations. There turned out to be
How
19. 19 of them. And
19,
that was
19, how much was that?
for 19 citations, it was $1,620. And the reason why I did decide to pay for all this stuff is because for 2 weeks I tried to get hold of Matthew Burns and he would not return my phone
You don't
calls.
have to tell me why.
Okay.
Actually, he's very busy being a full-time student.
No,
Now,
but
a full-time student without a car.
when she picked up the car, she took the responsibilities of the car.
No, sir.
I've been taking care of that car for 4.5 years. I put $3,400 in it 3 months prior.
Sir, you didn't pay your parking tickets. You got parking tickets, $1,600 worth of parking tickets. You didn't pay them. You don't have to get a parking ticket. You just have to be irresponsible enough to park wherever you like and then take the tickets and throw them away. Now, if you didn't have any money, you would be more careful where you parked. You get one ticket and then you say, gee, this is a ticket. I'm going to pay this and I'm not going to get another one. But if you don't pay the tickets, then what difference does it make? What difference does it make? You can't register the car.
She picked up the car. She takes responsibility of the car.
Mr. Burns, she did not. That's what you're doing here, sir. She had to do what she had to do to A, protect her credit, and to B, since you were being totally irresponsible with her good name by not paying on her credit card, by not paying on the loan on the car, by getting $1,600 worth of tickets that you didn't pay, she had to do whatever she had to do to protect herself, which she did from your irresponsible behavior. Totally irresponsible.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, Ann Koza is suing ex-boyfriend Matthew Burns for credit card bills, parking tickets, impound fees, and car repair costs.
Now, if you think that she's responsible for this money, she's not. You are. The only problem that she has is she wants you to pay. She says that the car needs a whole bunch of repairs before she can sell it. And that part of your claim, and that's the only part of your claim, Ms. Koza, that I'm going to dismiss without prejudice, because you can't do a presumptive strike. If you sell the car and there's a shortfall on what you get for the car and the loan, then you can sue him for the difference. If a bank repossesses the car and they have to paint it, put in a new whatever, they do whatever they have to do, they sell it, and if you still owe on the car, they come back to you.
Your Honor, I do have a recording of Matthew Burns saying that he will make payment on the repairs.
I don't care whether you have that recording or not. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. I'm not entertaining that.
And then,
judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
it caused me a lot of stress and a lot of money that I didn't really have.
I wasn't taking responsibility. I wasn't taking accountability for my actions.
Back then, he was an honest, nice man who was a stand-up man. And the last year, he's, no offense to him, but has gone down the drain and careless and selfish.
In some aspects of my life, yeah, but in others, I've grown.
I just hope I can get done with this and move on with my life.
For McCormick, for breaking his lease, the cost of a phone, as well as a personal loan.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Case number 2031, Snyder Alice versus McCormick.
Thank you. You're welcome. Mr. Snyder, you own a farm.
I do.
And this is your girlfriend.
Yes.
How long has she been your girlfriend?
5
years tomorrow.
You say that as a 5 years tomorrow. And?
And I'm just saying, it's 5 years.
5 years tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
the rest of our lives.
Okay, good. He know that?
No, he's learning.
He's learning. Terrific. Okay, this is what I'm gathering from the bare bones of the story. Mr. McCormick was dating an employee of yours.
Correct.
What was that employee's name?
Natasha.
When were you dating the lovely Natasha?
We weren't really dating. We were an acquaintance.
Where was Natasha living?
She was living, when we first met, she was living at a friend's house, and she was working for Adam as an employee at a restaurant.
And when was that? Month and year?
I'd say around September of last year.
September 2021?
Yes.
And
we decided to move out because Adam had...
Well, so you were living with Natasha at the friend's house?
Yes.
Where had you been living before?
My mom's.
So you went from mom's house to Natasha and a friend's house?
Yes.
Okay. And then where did you go?
Then we moved into the trailer right next to Adam that he owned.
Who had a discussion with Mr. Snyder about potentially renting the trailer so you would have a place to live? And what kind of rent were you paying?
I believe it was $800.
And you moved into the trailer when?
Around November.
Of 2021?
Yes.
And you lived in the trailer till when?
About March.
March of 2022?
Yes.
In March, what happened?
Me and Natasha weren't getting along. I just had enough.
There was never a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship.
No.
She was just a friend. Did you know that?
That is not true.
So what did you do?
I asked Adam if I could move into the ranch house. There was nobody living there at the time.
Where were you living?
I live at my home with Julie.
Okay, and there's a ranch house on the farm.
I have a ranch house on a separate piece of property.
Close by to the farm?
Yes, 3 miles.
That was vacant?
Correct.
Okay, so you asked to rent it?
Yes.
Who was going to rent it?
I was.
Just you?
Yes, just me.
How much was the rent doing?
I was working at a factory.
How long did you work there?
About a month.
What month?
March.
Prior to March, where were you working?
On Adam's farm.
From when to when?
I'd say about December until March.
Well, in December to March, you were living in the trailer.
Yes.
Okay. And you were living with the lovely Natasha.
Correct.
And Natasha, I assume, was contributing to the rent.
Yes.
And how much were you contributing to the rent? Is not an answer. How much were you contributing to the rent from December to March of 2021?
Couple hundred a month.
That's not an answer. A couple of hundred a month. How much do you pay for rent? $316 a month and 24 cents. How much does it cost to have your garbage picked up? $59.12. Do you understand? Certain things change. What was your electric bill last year? I don't remember. What was your bill last month? I don't remember.
$300, ma'am.
You see? But I mean, a couple is two.
Yes.
Who did you pay that to?
Natasha.
Well, I can't tell whether you paid that to Natasha or not. Did you ever discuss rent with Mr. Snyder?
No.
Even in the trailer?
Even in the trailer.
So that was all done through Natasha?
Correct.
Okay. But according to you, you worked someplace in March, but before that you worked on the farm?
Yes.
From when to when? December to March?
Yes.
Beginning, middle, or the end of December?
The middle, the 16th.
Is that about right?
If you want to call
Just
helping...
helping whatever?
Yes.
December 16th. Okay. And from December 16th, you did whatever work it was on the farm until March?
Yes.
March what?
Till I moved out.
No, March what? Beginning, middle, and...
28th.
And what was the rent in the ranch house? The ranch house must have been nicer than the trailer you were living in.
$800.
You moved in April?
Yes.
How much money did you give him?
$900.
Some was to go towards security?
I was in between jobs, and that's what I had, so we made an agreement that I'd pay $900 the week of, and then so on and so on. I don't have
so on and so on?
I don't have the copy of the lease. He never gave me it.
Did you sign a lease?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
I have it right here. In the back of the contract, you'll see where we wrote down he would pay $900.
$8.
Paid $9.
The security deposit was $12, and you paid $9 of security deposit?
I paid $9 total, ma'am.
Well, how many months did you live there?
Not even one.
When did you move out?
April 24th, I moved out.
Is that correct?
That's close, yes.
Okay.
I don't know exactly when he moved out because he didn't tell me he was moving out. He just locked the door.
Okay.
And wouldn't
but it was in
return
April.
messages.
Okay. And you had $900.
He paid $900.
And the rent on the property was supposed to be?
$800 per month.
$800 monthly.
Yes.
So right now, you've been paid for the month that he lived there.
Correct.
Prior to his moving in there, who was living there?
Nobody.
So it wasn't rented?
Nope.
In what year was it last rented?
2021.
When?
Oh, no, it was in February. We did an eviction on it.
So somebody lived there and didn't pay rent?
Correct.
Is that the first person who came in that didn't pay rent?
Definitely not.
Definitely not. Yeah, it's
And
lousy
Trevor
to be a
was there,
landlord.
and he helped us do the
Yeah.
eviction on that, so he knew how it worked.
Hmm?
Trevor was there. He helped us do the eviction because we had to have court officers there
To get him out because they weren't paying rent.
So he knows how it works.
Well, he may know how it works, but he did, in fact, give you $900.
He did.
And he lived there for less than a month.
That's right.
So that's sort of square. I know you'd like him to be responsible for his lease, but you have your house back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, tell me about this phone that you say he owes you for.
Okay.
By the way, where's your phone?
I have my phone that I paid for. Their phone that I put a down payment for is at my house.
Why?
I didn't know I had to bring it.
Well, it was just purchased within the last year.
Yeah.
Why do you have two phones? You have no
Because,
job. Why do you have two phones?
I have a job.
Oh, good.
I bought this outright because he shut the other phone off.
Oh, well, where is the phone?
The phone's at my house.
What kind of phone is it?
It's an iPhone 13.
You want it back?
I'd like him to just pay for it like the agreement was, but...
He gets back his phone.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Even though I paid
just
it
a
down.
second. Where do you live? Where do you live?
I live in Highland.
Where is that?
It's by Detroit, Michigan.
Who else lives at home?
My girlfriend,
What's her name?
Ariel.
Where is she?
She is currently working right now.
Does she know where the phone is?
Yes.
Okay. They're going to give you an envelope in the clerk's office back here. You're going to tell Ariel to put his phone carefully packed and mail it to him. FedEx, UPS, the fastest way it will get there. Then you get your phone back. Go. What's next?
Would pay for their phones up front so that I would put them on my business plan. I told them I would only do that if they paid for the phones up front, because when I took Trevor to Verizon, I said, if they don't pay for their phone bill, as long as they've paid for these phones in full, I can shut them off and it will cost my business no money, correct?
Hmm?
And the lady said, that is right. I said, okay, then we can do it. So we added them to the bill, to the business plan. And here, where I text him, I said, you and Natasha told me you were paying for the phone in cash. That's why I allowed you on my business plan. Now I found out that you did not pay for the phones up front, because when we were in there, he and Natasha had the cash.
Did you assure Mr. Snyder that you were going to pay for the phone?
I had no idea I was even going to get a phone until Natasha said, go with Adam and go pick up our phones. That's all I heard, and that's what I did.
Well,
I didn't know
can't
about
say that
cash.
to me because the lovely Natasha isn't here either. Sir, you're going to get your phone back. Is it one phone or more?
We recovered the second one from...
Well, you're going to recover this one too. You recovered the second one.
Yeah.
Second one was Natasha's?
Correct.
Great, we're going to recover this one too. What's next? Changing lock fees, and you want a personal loan. Okay. So once he moved out, according to you, he moved out totally, and you didn't even know he moved out, so I don't know why the locks were changed.
The lock did not need changed. I did tell the court that we were going to have to change the locks because the key was missing. I didn't know that while I was away on storm, Julie had gone in to check to make sure the water wasn't running, and she found the key on the table. And that is
Okay,
what Trevor
great.
said.
So we're going to eliminate that. And now we're going to go to the small loan that you say that you made to the defendant.
So Natasha came over, guys. He said she worked at...
Don't tell me what Natasha asked you. That's all hearsay. I need to know what conversations you had with the defendant.
Okay, but she came over...
But you can't tell me what she said, you see.
Okay. So
and
anyway,
if you made a contract, with Natasha for a loan of money, even if it went for his benefit, do you understand?
Okay.
Even if it went for his benefit, he's not responsible. If Natasha says, I want you to give, what's your first name?
Trevor.
Trevor. However, you can't tell me that.
I was not in the house at the time when they were discussing that.
Well, you said you went into the house.
I came to pick Natasha up.
I don't want you to make yourself appear any more stupid. Do you understand? Try not to do that.
Adam Snyder and Julie Ellis claim their former employee, Trevor McCormick, owes for the cost of a phone and a personal loan. Trevor is countersuing for unpaid wages.
Now, did you ever have a conversation with Trevor about money?
I do. I have a text message telling him...
No, tell me, not a text message.
The conversation was not verbal.
It was by text message?
Correct.
Okay, so I'd like to see text message from him.
Yep. This has from Trevor. This is his number.
Okay. May I see it, please?
He did pay me $100 in cash.
Okay, so it's clear from this text exchange, sir, that you borrowed a certain amount of money from the plaintiff.
I did not borrow, Natasha.
Yes, well, it acknowledges it here because you say, I start that job on the 14th. I will pay you back out of my first check. It was for me, and I will pay it. That's what you wrote. Do you understand? Do you want to look at it?
No.
You don't want to look at it. You're not questioning me. So it's clear from this that you borrowed money from Miss Ailes.
I personally did not. I didn't even know what was going on.
Who wrote this? I start that job on the 14th.
That was me.
Well, then, that's in response to her text message to you that says, hello, Trevor. I heard you were moving out and I need that paid by the end of the month. I have been very patient as no attempt has been made on this. Thank you. And you immediately wrote back to her and said, I start that job on the 14th and I will pay you out of my first paycheck. That's what you said to her.
Yes, ma'am.
You mean, yes, ma'am. Now, I'm going to get back and ask you the question I think I asked before. What was the loan for?
I broke down in Oklahoma.
In what month and year was that?
About September of last year.
September of 2021 is just about when you... And?
So I rode the Greyhound bus back up to Michigan and waited until my car got fixed, which took months.
I'm asking you, what was the loan for?
To go back down and get my car.
So it was $670 that you borrowed from her, and I want to know how it was that you got the money.
I came in to Julie's house, and Natasha said, you're going to Oklahoma to pick up your car, because I didn't have any money right then and there, but I wasn't going to ask anybody.
Just a second. I don't care what you were going to do, what you didn't do, what you thought about doing. You went into the house that the plaintiffs share.
Mm-hmm.
Not uh-huh. Uh-huh is not an answer. The answer is yes. The lovely Natasha was there.
Yes.
With Julie.
Yes.
What did you say and what did Julie say to you? Just Julie.
Julie didn't really say anything. She said, don't tell Adam about the money.
Oh, so she said she would give you money?
Yes.
And she knew exactly how much you needed?
Yes.
Did you tell her that?
No.
Okay. When she gave you the money, did she give it to you in check or cash?
She didn't give me no money. She gave Natasha the money.
Okay, how much was it?
$700, around there.
And after it was given to you by Natasha, but you were all in the same room together.
I was not in the house at the time when they were discussing that.
Well, you said you went into the house.
I came to pick Natasha up. Yes.
I don't want you to make yourself appear any more stupid. Do you understand?
Yes.
Try not to do that. You were in the house with Julie and Natasha at some point, and at some point money was discussed.
No.
Was money discussed in front of him?
No, it was not.
Okay. So your loan was not with him. Do you understand?
Yes.
Unless he ratifies the loan subsequently. Is that correct?
Correct.
This is from my person who just studied for the bar, and I have to go back in my mind 50 years. If my memory is correct, if you don't make a loan directly with someone, they cannot be obligated to repay that money. However, if they subsequently get use of that money and subsequently agree to repay you, what would be your take on that? Take a look at it very carefully. What would be your take?
It was for me, I will pay it. Seems pretty close to textbook ratification.
Yeah, I would say so. I start a job on the 14th. I will pay you back out of my first paycheck.
I just wanted to keep the peace because she was down my throat.
This woman was down your throat?
Yes.
She may have been annoyed, very annoyed, but she wasn't down your throat. She was the one who volunteered to give you money in your time of need. How could she be down your throat? Okay. So far you paid her back $100. Is that what he paid you back? So he owes you $600. Okay. So far, Mr. Snyder, I'm not with you on it, on the rent.
Okay.
I'm not with you on the lock change fees. I am with you on the phone, which you're going to get back. He's going to get that back within 5 days. Otherwise, he's going to have difficulty.
Here from the day that he did the phone purchases, instead of paying for the phones up front, he also added a bunch of other cordless phone chargers and everything else to the bill.
How much were the extras?
Totally, there's $2,000.
No. I don't want them total. You're going to get the phone back. What were the extras that he charged onto the phone?
There is a $41.99.
$41.99.
There is a $20.99.
Okay. You know that I went to 7 years of postgraduate school for this. Keep going.
$29.99.
7 years, they were very hard years. I also took the bar exam. Keep going, $29.99.
$17.99.
Oh, it's getting worse. Not better for you, Mr. Snyder.
And $11.99.
Worse, a lot worse.
$122.95.
Okay. You have a counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
For what?
Working on the farm.
Okay. Tell me about that. From when to when did you work on the farm?
November to the end of March.
And what were you doing between November and March?
I was feeding cattle when Adam was on storm, watering them.
To March what? The end of March?
Yes, right.
I thought you worked at a factory.
I did both.
Well, you can't do both. You work at a factory. I asked you if you had a job. You said, I work at a factory.
I did do both.
Well, now I need the name of the factory and find out what your shift was.
I was,
And you worked during the day.
yes.
From when to when?
From
Time.
6 to 6. Well, I had...
Just a second. Mr. McCormick, if you work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., it is not possible to work it up as we're going along. Did you have a financial arrangement with him for putting out these bales of hay?
We never did. Although he did get paid for everything he did until the last day that he worked for me, where we were tearing apart a building.
That's incorrect.
Oh, just don't speak.
Adam Snyder and Julie Alice have accused their former employee, Trevor McCormick, of refusing to pay the costs of a phone and the balance of a loan. Trevor claims he was not paid for the work he did on their farm.
Now, did he work for you?
It would be very minimal. He would put hay bales out, which would take 10 minutes.
He would put what?
Hay bales out for the cattle.
Hay bales?
Yes.
At approximately what time of day? Because I'm not getting...
He could come and do it when he got home from work.
Okay. And did you have a financial arrangement with him for putting out these bales of hay?
We never did.
Okay. Is there any reason why you never did?
Because he didn't do it very often, and he said he was just happy to help, although he did get paid for everything he did until the last day that he worked for me, where we were tearing apart a building.
So he got paid when he worked for you?
He did.
That's
Oh,
incorrect.
just don't speak. From when to when?
When he helped me, it was very minimal. It would be...
No, I'm not talking about the hay. You said he did, in fact, work for me.
He did.
I want to know, but not on the farm. He worked someplace else.
He helped on another piece of farmland that I have.
Okay.
Where a barn had fallen down. We were tearing the steel off, and he worked 3 hours that morning.
3 hours what morning?
The last day that he was there, it would have been...
So that's in March?
Early, I would say the second week of March.
Okay. When was the first time he worked there?
I would say probably in January.
And he was working at this other plant from 6 to 6 in March,
Correct.
According to him. So he did some work for you in the first month, which was January.
Yeah. If he helped me, it might be 1 day a week. That worked. One day I gave him $300 for helping me for a day and a half on another demolition job I did.
And you paid him in cash?
Correct.
Okay.
That was for the demolition job. That wasn't for the farm.
It doesn't make any difference, sir. If you have a full-time job and you're working part-time someplace else and you say he paid you...
He did not pay me.
Well, you say he didn't pay you for the farm. What he's saying is he had a job with me. He was a demolition job for which he got paid, which you do not deny. Is that right?
I'm not.
You just said that's not what I asked you. He paid you for the job that you did part-time for him
Yes,
in
he paid me for
demolition.
that job, yes.
So that's a yes.
Yes.
And what you're suing him for is allegedly money that he owes you for working on the farm during a period that does include March when you were working full-time someplace else.
Correct.
And working for him.
Yes.
And doing this work at the site in March, the first 2 weeks in March, because you got some money for that.
Correct.
So now you have, according to you, 3 jobs. 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
First of all, you had no fixed financial arrangement with him at the farm.
Correct. He said he'd pay me what he can.
That is not a contract. Okay, but let's move forward with that. Tell me what your chores were at the farm.
I would go feed them hay.
Just feed who hay?
The cows.
Okay, how many cows do you have?
130.
Anybody else work on the farm or just him?
Just me mainly, and he would help when I was gone.
Okay, and in order to keep these animals alive, they have to be fed hay.
Correct.
For how many months did you feed them hay?
3.
Once a day?
Yes.
And what time would you do this?
Usually in the morning.
Before you went to work?
Yes.
That had to be 5 o'clock in the morning. You went to work at 6 o'clock. You had a shift, according to you, from 6 to 6.
Yes.
Okay, so how long did this take you in the morning when you had a full-time job?
Sometimes.
Not sometimes. I want you to tell me how long it took you.
Average about an hour and a half a day.
So let's say it took you an hour a day. And how many days did you do it?
I was with him every day before I got the job. I would go with him every day.
I don't care.
Okay.
For the 3 months, I'm asking you how many days you did it.
45.
That be right? In the 3 months, maybe 45 days? How many days did he put out hay?
If Trevor fed the cattle 12 days the whole time by himself, I'd be surprised.
And I helped him because I was there.
You did not help me when
Just
he was
a second.
gone.
Yes.
You helped him with the bales of hay?
Yes, I helped him because
20 hours. Did you pay him any extra money for this work?
No, not for feeding cattle.
Not feeding cattle. And you didn't have any arrangement with him whereby he would work on the farm and he would get something off his rent?
No.
Okay, so he has to be paid for that. Sarah Rose, would you look up and see if there's a minimum wage in Michigan? What's the federal minimum wage? I don't know anymore.
$15.
So the minimum wage is now $15 an hour. That's federal.
Yes, ma'am.
15 times 20.
$300.
Okay, so, Mr. Snyder, let's start with you. You are going to get your phone back within 5 days. On your cross-claim against Mr. Snyder, I am awarding you $300 on your counterclaim. That is for the work that you did on the farm. However, we are holding that check until he gets his phone back in good condition.
Yes.
Do you understand? Otherwise, you forfeit that money.
Yes, ma'am.
To him. Do you understand?
Yes.
With regard to the co-plaintiff, I find that you did, in fact, take a loan from her, that you initially did it through a third party, but that you ratified the fact that you would make payments on the loan by two things. First, by acknowledging it in writing, and second, by making a payment. So I'm awarding you $600 on your claim. Those are the orders of the court. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I think they're scam artists.
We came here to try to teach him a lesson that when he enters into contract with somebody, the contract is a contract.
They're greedy. They want money. They need money.
For being greedy, we did a lot to help this guy out.
By doing pretty much anything they ask.
Well, we've decided we're not helping people out anymore. They're on their own.
It's funny because if he didn't send those text messages ratifying the contract that someone else had made on his behalf, he could have gotten away without any responsibility. But when someone makes an agreement on your behalf and you then later either pay for it or admit responsibility that you know you owe it, then you've ratified it and you're held to that, even if you didn't make the initial agreement.
See you in the...
All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2027, Davis versus Zadie.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, a couple of years ago, you were a tenant of the defendants.
Correct, Your Honor.
You rented a room from him?
Correct, Your
in
Honor.
his house. For how long?
For about a year, a little over.
From when to when?
2020, I want to say the beginning of the year till about the end.
Do you remember the dates that he was a tenant?
Yes, they're incorrect what he's saying. It was from May of 2020 to November 2020.
Does that sound right, Mr. Davis?
Something like that, yeah.
May, June, July, August, September, October, and when in November did he leave?
I believe it was by the 10th.
This is what your case is about. Briefly, it is your claim that you and Mr. Zadie had some sort of an argument.
Correct.
Which you'll tell me about. And Mr. Zadie called the police. You were taken from the premises.
Mm-hmm.
You were arrested, spent the night in jail, mailed yourself out. And this happened in 2020.
Correct.
In November of 2020. Your lawsuit is for false arrest and actual damages. You had to post bail and for filing a false police report. The reason that you have delayed for 2 years in bringing this case against him is because you say you had another action pending.
Correct, Your Honor.
What was the nature of the other action that you had pending?
It was a speeding issue with the police.
Well, it's not a speeding issue with the police. Were you stopped for speeding? Were you arrested for speeding?
Yes, I was, Your Honor.
You were arrested for speeding?
Yeah, and they called it a 2800 VC, if my memory serves me correct.
Well, I don't know what that is.
It's, I guess, evading.
Look into it.
In what city and state do you live?
Irvine, California.
Let me understand this. Very few people are arrested for speeding. You remember what you were arrested for, sir? You weren't arrested for speeding.
They called it evading an officer because I didn't pull over right away.
So you were evading an officer. Let's try that, Sarah.
Evading a police officer in a vehicle. It's vehicle code 2800-1.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, what does it say?
Prohibits evading an officer in a vehicle, which means willfully fleeing from a police officer when the officer is pursuing the person in a car or on a bike. The offense is a misdemeanor punishable by up to 1 year in jail.
Okay, so you had a misdemeanor pending, right? Anything else?
No, that was it.
Anything else historically?
Yes, I did have historical
How distant?
years. I want to say 2004.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't have to go into 2004. So you had this case pending and you felt that it was inappropriate to bring a civil case against him.
Yeah, because I didn't want the cases to intertwine, Your Honor.
They weren't going to intertwine. The case that he brought against you was eventually dismissed.
Correct.
In what month and year was it dismissed?
It was dismissed the same month, about 2 weeks after that.
Is that right?
I believe so.
Okay. So let me understand this. He alleged that you assaulted him or threatened him. You were taken into custody. The DA examined the case and decided not to prosecute it.
Correct.
And that was 2 years ago.
Correct.
Well, I don't know who gave you advice, sir, or whether you did this on your own, but bringing a civil case against someone for something has no impact whatsoever on a pending criminal case, be it a felony or a misdemeanor. You know, if you were driving in a car and someone hit you in the rear in November of 2020, and you waited 2 years to bring that because you had this evading a police officer action and you thought that that was a valid reason, your case would be dismissed for the hit in the rear and whatever injuries you had, because you're supposed to bring these things in a timely fashion.
I understand.
2 years is not a timely fashion. Now that I've suggested that to you, I would like to hear what you say transpired in November 2020, to the best of your recollection.
On November the 9th, 2020, me and my former landlord, Alexandra over here, we had an argument about a guest that I had over.
Okay. You had an argument over the phone or in person?
Over the phone.
Tell me how that phone call was initiated.
He texted me some things and I called him because I wanted to...
Okay. He texted you. Do you have a copy of that text?
No, I don't have the text.
Do you recall what that text said?
Yes, I do.
Tell me what it said.
I told him that he has to get his girlfriend out of the house because she's been coming in every day and night, staying there.
Okay. So you said, in effect, I rented you this room, not your girlfriend.
Correct.
You got to get her out of the house. Now, when you rented the room in May, just a second. When you rented the room in May and you moved in, did Tawana move in with you?
She did not move in with me.
So when you rented the room for yourself in May, you rented the room as a single person?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. And when did you bring Tawana into the room?
It would be once in a while.
No. What month, sir?
I don't recall the exact month.
What month, sir?
It started happening like back in August, every day. It started one day, then every other day, and then it became constant day and night.
For how long?
For a long, long time, till towards the November when it just went out of proportion.
The argument was about having his girlfriend, according to you, practically living there.
Right.
And you didn't want her there?
No.
Okay, because you rented a room to a single man who, until the girlfriend started to come in, I assume you didn't have trouble with.
Right.
So that's what your text message said to him in November. And as a result of that text message, you called him on the phone. I'm just trying to lay out the story.
Okay.
So you called him on the phone and you said what to him and he said what to you?
I don't recall exactly what I said to him, but I remember he told me to tell her, get the out, get out my house, get the out right now. Your girlfriend is a... He was saying a bunch of derogatory things over the phone to me and then hung up in my face. I'm working at the time. So when I came back...
Did you call your girlfriend?
No, I didn't call her.
Did you text her?
We speak regularly. We were talking all the time.
No, then.
Yeah, she knew about it. She did.
Don't tell me what she knew. I just asked you if you texted her or called her.
Yeah, I did.
You did. And when you texted or called her, was she in the house? Was she in your room?
No, she was gone already at this time. When we were arguing,
just
she was...
Just a second. Is that because he told her to leave?
No, she was leaving already. She had work to go to. She wasn't living there. She had her own place and job in Lakewood, California. And I would tell him that all the time, but he would always insinuate that, oh, no, she's living there. I'm like, no, she's not. She pays $2,000 for rent.
He lives in the house with you.
Right.
Now, before Tawana, had you had any difficulty with him? You moved in May. May, did you have any difficulty? No.
No.
June, did you have any difficulty?
No.
July, did you have any difficulty?
No.
No. You didn't have difficulty until Tawana came.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was the difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
So he told you in a very work.
Mm-hmm.
What time did you get home from work?
About 9-ish.
And Tawana was gone.
Yes, she was gone.
Had she taken her things?
There was nothing for her to take. She didn't bring stuff over there. She wasn't living there.
No, but she came over there and stayed a few days a week and never had any stuff.
Overnight bag.
Okay,
that's
but
it.
she took it with her when she left.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got home about 9 o'clock, and what happened?
I got home at 9, and I said, don't disrespect me and my woman. You know, this is the woman I love.
Okay. When you got home, you walked in the front door. Where was he?
He was in the kitchen, and he had a female guest there, too.
He's allowed to have a female guest. It's his house.
Yeah, right. The pot calling the kettle black, basically.
No.
Hypocrisy.
Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis, if you rent a room to a single guy, did you have a lease agreement with him?
Yeah, I did have a lease agreement.
Did you have a written lease?
Yes, I did.
Did your written lease provide that you were going to live there?
Yes, it did.
Just you?
Yes.
Well, you bring in another person, that's in violation of the lease.
That's not in violation of the lease because there was nothing in the lease that said I couldn't have guests. He actually said I could have guests.
Guest is one thing. A guest is somebody that doesn't come with an overnight bag regularly.
No, he said
one
I
day,
could have an overnight
2 days, 3 days, 4 days. That's more than an occasional guest. That's somebody that comes and goes even when you're not there. Because according to you, you contacted Tawana while you were at work and she was at the house.
That's false.
Well, I thought you contacted her and then you said she left. She took a few things with her, probably just an overnight bag.
No, she was not going there when I wasn't there. That's false.
Are you saying that she was not in your room when you were not home?
When I was not there? No, she would not be there.
That true?
No, he had made a key to her. She would come as she pleased.
Did you make her a key?
False. That's absolutely false.
Did you make her a key?
No, that's absolutely false. No, I didn't make her a key.
Do you still speak to Tawana?
No, I don't. We kind of fell out of touch.
If I were to call Tawana and ask her whether or not you made a key, would she tell me she did or she didn't?
She would say that I didn't.
Didn't?
Yeah.
Great. Phone number?
I have it must be.
I don't have her number saved here.
I'm not exactly buying the fact that Tawana did not have access to the home even when you weren't there. Even if it was just...
Key situation. I gave her my key when I was locked up in jail from his false police report. I gave her my property, and she had my key then to help me get the stuff out of his home. But I never went and made her a key, a copy of a key anywhere.
Did she ever use your key other than when you were incarcerated?
No.
He says she did.
Davis claims his former landlord, Alex Zadie, owes for bail money after Alex had him falsely arrested.
Okay, so now you're having this discussion. He's in the kitchen. You come home from work at 9 o'clock, and you went into the kitchen to look for him.
Correct.
And when you found him, tell me what happened.
We had just a brief, maybe 2-minute conversation or argument, discourse about what the things that he said. And I said, you know, don't be disrespectful to my woman and me. And I said, you know, you're a bitch. I called him a bitch. I did. But I never threatened him, harassed him.
You said you're what?
That's it.
What does that mean? That's a half a sentence.
Well...
He was calling him a bitch. You are a bitch.
Oh, you were calling him?
Yes, because he says these things over the phone.
He's a guy. Why
yeah.
would you call him a...
Because he says all these things over the phone and he gets real loud and he's a completely different person when he's on the phone than when I'm in his...
You think that's gender neutral?
Yeah, at this point.
Well, there you go. That's why I have you here. Okie dokie.
So...
Okay, so you were going, don't call me that. You called him a name. And then things got heated. And then what happened?
No, things didn't get heated. After that, he said, oh, that's how you want to do it? And then I said, if you want to get me evicted, you have to go through it the right way and do it legally and give me a 30-day eviction.
No, he must have said to you, I want you out of here because you called me a name.
It wasn't
you said
a problem.
If you want me evicted, then he had to have said something about getting you out.
He didn't really see, I don't remember him mentioning anything about me getting out. I just remember the fact that he called the police to get
No,
me
before
out.
he called the police. You're still in the kitchen. Do you ever leave the kitchen?
Yes, I did.
Where did you go?
I went to my room.
Okay. Before you went to your room, did you hear him on the phone with the police?
I did.
Before you went to your room?
Yes.
Okay. And
I didn't sit there and listen to his phone call. I took a video and I started recording because I didn't want to be made out to look like the guilty party. And I had it pretty much live streaming the whole time, which was an Instagram video.
Can I see it?
No, I don't have the video. The police
But then it
deleted
doesn't exist. If you don't have it, it doesn't exist for my purposes.
Understood.
But you had it then.
Yeah, I did have it then.
You did. And video, they took you into custody.
Despite showing them the video, they took me into custody.
Despite looking at the video,
Yes.
which I haven't seen.
They didn't look at the video. They refused to look at it.
Well, let's go one step further. You see, Mr. Davis, this is why you bring actions right away. So that not only everybody's memory is fresh, but if I wanted to call a police officer who responded or whatever, that's why you bring an action right away.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So now you're taken into custody and you have a video that is totally, according to you, exculpatory.
I don't know the definition.
Exculpatory means it says that you were not guilty of anything.
Okay.
And you appear in court?
No, I didn't appear in court.
Never?
No, never.
Well, what happened to the case?
The case was thrown out. It was a DA reject because there was insufficient evidence that I did anything to him.
And you never showed the district attorney your video?
I didn't get a chance to because the video was deleted by the police.
The police department deleted your video?
Yeah, they did.
You are a terrible victim of circumstance, Mr. Davis. Did you ever make a complaint that the police department deleted your video that would be exculpatory?
No.
Why not? I would if I had.
Maybe ignorance of the law, I guess.
What?
I said maybe ignorance of the law, I guess. Not knowing. When you know better, you do better.
No, Mr. Davis. Actually, I mean, sometimes you really don't know what the law is, but you were smart enough, you said, to tell me, because you knew I would say, why wait 2 years, that you didn't want this action to conflict with another action. Well, that's a two-process thinker.
I've had something like that happen to me before where I had a criminal case and a civil case pending, and the dates were kind of intertwining and messing, and they're about to get in the way of my civil case. So I didn't want to make that same mistake with this case, Your Honor.
Okay, so you want to tell me what your version of the events were of November 9th of 2020?
Yes, Your Honor. I had gone to Mexico for a business trip meeting, and I had my friend who was visiting from Mexico staying at my place, and at that same time, I had another roommate who was renting the room next to Ryan Davis's room. His name was Dave. I received a call from Dave on November 9th that it's constant sex going on.
Okay, so you received a call from the other person living in your house who you were renting a room to.
Acts taking place.
Listen to me. You personally?
Yes.
When you were home?
Yes.
Okay, so you heard what was going on behind his closed doors?
Right, day and night.
Okay.
Like there's no tomorrow.
Okay, well, maybe, maybe jealous. Okay.
Disrespectful.
Shh. Okay, so he was becoming an annoying tenant.
Yes.
For whatever reason.
Yes.
Keep going. You sent him a text. He called you. You had heated words. He comes home from work. You're in the kitchen.
Yes.
He comes into the kitchen and
I told him, Ryan, we've gone through this many times before. I've addressed this to you about your girlfriend coming here all the time, day and night, and now she's here every day. What he was doing was sneaking her in late at night, and that's how I wouldn't know that she snuck back in. There were times I came home from work, and she was already there when Ryan wasn't even there, so she had the key, obviously.
Okay, now let's go to November 9th.
November 9th, I confronted him. I said that this is just way too much. My other roommate wants to leave. He cannot take it anymore.
And
then he said, well, she isn't here. And my...
Okay, he said she wasn't here. Keep going.
Then he cussed at my friend who was visiting from Mexico. He said, get this bitch out of here.
That's not true.
Don't interrupt.
And,
okay.
I said, you can talk to her.
Okay, let's go.
Right. Then he went into his room. He came back. He brought a samurai sword with him. And he flashed at me. I'm going to slice you in half like a butter.
Okay.
What?
And I'm like shocked at that time, don't know what's going on with him because he's just changing character. I'm scared of my life. I'm scared of my guests.
Okay. And then what happened? So
And
he
then
came out
I said, you need to get out of here. You need to move.
And then he went back. He didn't do anything with the sword.
No, he didn't. He went back in the room with the sword. He put it there. But then he came back and he pushed me against the wall. As he was pushing me, I tried to block him by putting my two hands up. And when he pushed me, it bruised. I had a cut on my wrist, but there was a bruise.
Okay.
And
now,
I
at what
said I'm
point?
going to call the police.
Okay, so you called the police when he came back out of his room the second time, this time without the
Yes.
sword. And the police took a report.
Yes.
Do you have that report?
Yes.
I'd
right
like to
here.
see it. Mr. Davis, do you have a copy of the police report or
I
any
have it right
follow-up
here, too,
report?
Your
I'd
Honor.
like to see that too.
During my birthday, for a birthday gift.
When's your birthday?
October 31st.
And this happened on November 9th.
Correct.
Between October 31st and November 9th, did you have occasion to show Mrs. Zaidi prior to November 9th? So
Never,
between
Your Honor.
31st and the 8th, did you show Mr. Zaidi the sword?
Never, Your Honor. He's
Just
a liar.
a sec. Just answer my question.
Davis has accused his former landlord, Alex Zaidi, of causing a false arrest. Alex says Ryan threatened him with a samurai sword.
October 31st to November 8th, did you ever show Mr. Zaidi the sword?
No, Your Honor.
No.
No.
Okay. So unless he went into your room,
He went into my room.
unless he went into your room prior to November 9th, there was no way he would have seen the sword.
Correct.
Okay. And when did you go away on this business trip, sir?
On the 9th.
That day?
Yes, in the morning.
And on what day did you first see this sword that was in his room?
On the evening of November 9th.
That was the first time, not his
First,
birthday, not second day, not third day. Okay. Does his room have a lock on it, by the way?
From inside.
From inside. Mr. Davis, were you on probation at the time of this incident for something in Riverside
Yes,
that
Your
involved a fraud?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And that wasn't a fraud dating back to 2004?
It was dating back
No, it wasn't an incident.
for 2000 and, I believe, 15.
Okay. So when you told me before, and I'm not even going to have Whitney read it back, you said the last time you had this speeding little problem and evading police, I said, well, before that? And you said, yeah, I did before that in 2004.
Correct.
But that was a lie.
Which was like...
Just a second, that was a lie. You had another case involving a fraud in 2015
It wasn't.
on which you were on probation, which means that you were either found guilty or took a plea.
Correct.
Okay. And when the police officer, Mr. Davis, took down your statement, you said that while you acknowledged that you had a samurai sword in your room, you said you had never shown it to Mr. Zaidi.
Correct, Your Honor.
You had never...
Going in my room, I believe, when I was not there, going through my stuff.
Okay.
That's the only other way I can know that he was...
I'm not finished reading this, yes.
Okay, that's fine.
That's like the 2015 case. You just remember. Do you have any other police reports that you'd like me to see, Mr. Davis?
Not a police report, but I have the bail bonds receipt that I paid. And
I'm not interested in your bail bonds receipt.
I have the DA reject.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah, they rejected the case right here.
Yeah,
They refused
I'd like
to
to
file
see it.
charges. Your Honor, there's a conflicting story where he said he was left on the 9th because he was there 2 weeks with his guest prior to that. So how could he leave on the 9th if his guest was there 2 weeks prior to
I
the
asked
9th?
him when he left for his... Sir, you didn't understand the reason for my question. I wanted to know if he had been gone from October 31st, which was your birthday, to the 8th. That's why I asked him when he left on his business trip.
Correct.
And he said he didn't leave until the date of this incident. You want to say he left before?
He did
That would
leave
be
before.
interesting.
He
What?
did leave before.
He did.
Yes.
On what date did he leave?
I don't know the exact date, but I
A
know
week before, 5 days before?
it was maybe about a few weeks before.
November 9th?
Yeah, a few weeks.
Then he wouldn't have been able to see your sword because he wouldn't have been coming in and out of
He
your
was
room.
there from the 9th.
Well,
from
this
the
happened on the
31st
9th.
From the 31st to the 9th, he was there.
Well, you just told me he left 2 weeks before.
I'm saying he was gone before that date, and then on the 31st, between the 31st and the 9th, he was there at the place.
Okay, well, that's what he says. He said he was there, and the business was only one day. He left on the 9th, and he came home on the 9th. You said, no, he was there for 2 weeks before. Well, if he was there for 2 weeks before and you didn't get the sword until 31st of October, he could not have seen it by going in and out of your room. So you have to sort of get your story straight, sir. So he was there or not there, according to you?
He was there.
He was there?
Correct.
Okay, good.
His guest was also there for about 2 weeks.
Just who cares about his guest? He owns the house.
Okay.
Okay, it was a misdemeanor case and they declined to prosecute it.
Correct.
Your case is dismissed, Mr. Davis, for several reasons. It's dismissed because it was brought in an untimely fashion. It was brought 2 years after the fact for no valid reason.
Your Honor,
it's dismissed for that. It's dismissed for a second reason, because I find some of your testimony, sir, incredible. And one of the reasons I say that is because you were not forthcoming with a legitimate answer to me with regard to your prior history, which isn't always dispositive. You were on probation for a crime for which you were convicted, either after trial or after hearing. Do you understand? You would remember that. Are you still on probation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Your case is dismissed. We're done.
This
You're
court is
making a
adjourned.
big mistake, Your Honor. You have guests over 2 to 3 weeks at a time, but I have a girl over for 3 days, and now it's World War III.
He was only allowed to stay there by himself, not with his girlfriend.
I never went at him with a samurai sword.
It was pretty scary.
He basically just used the system against me because I'm a person of color and I have a record already, so I fit the bill.
He had a criminal record. When I rented the room to him, he was asking for a second chance.
It's easier for them to lock somebody up who's already been to jail.
Nobody was renting him the room, and he was saying he's trying to start a new life.
I'm 6'1", 200 pounds. I wouldn't even need a weapon if I was going to assault him, but I never did.
Thank you, Judge Judy.
You know, there are so many lessons from this case, I think, Sarah. One of them is there's a reason that the law tells you to bring an action in a timely fashion, right?
Many reasons.
Many reasons. One is because it's not like an afterthought, you know, and there are reasons for delays. You were in a hospital, you go into the armed forces, but here there was no really legitimate reason for him not bringing this kind of case in a timely fashion. And the other one, that's always a good thing to me, what did you think about his credibility?
Yeah, I think it's hard for a fact finder to believe the totality of your testimony if one of the first questions, just about a simple question of your prior history with law enforcement, if you have any pending charges, I think that's a very simple question. If you aren't fully truthful with the fact finder on that question, it makes it really difficult, and the rest of your testimony is now suspect.
That's true. And it's a good lesson, because sometimes you think, well, it's sort of an innocuous question. I don't have to get it. But if I, sitting as a juror in a case, see that somebody is fabricating a fact, and they want you to believe them, you know, they're saying it is that I want you to believe my last law enforcement issue was in 2004.
A long time ago, no run-ins.
Right, nothing else, and a speeding ticket. And
it sets the tone in a negative way, and it makes it difficult.
Xin chào các bạn nha, chào mừng các bạn đã quay trở lại với series tô màu của mình. Hôm nay thì mình cùng với mọi người sẽ tô màu cho bức tranh về một cô nàng đang nằm này, rất là xinh xắn. Các bạn hãy cùng mình bắt tay vào tô màu ngay bây giờ nha. Trước tiên thì chúng mình sẽ cùng nhau tô phần những cái viên ngọc trai đứng ở trên đầu nhé. Nghe bài vùng lá mê bay để tô màu nào. Những cái viên ngọc này thì mình sẽ tô màu tím nha mọi người. Đức Thích nghe à, tí bật cho tinh thần học được tập trung cao độ. Ê, tao phải tập yoga mà bật bài về đây bên nhau ta nói lại tình xưa ấy. Hợp lắm đấy ạ. Giờ thì mình sẽ sử dụng màu vàng để tô cho phần tóc nha mọi người. Thôi từ từ để tô màu ấy. Ta thường hay nói hay quá Đức ơi. Tiếp theo thì mình sẽ tô chiếc vòng cổ nha mọi người. Tựa như lá mê bay. Cẩn thận hồn bay phất lạc đó. Mày hồn bay phất lạc. Ta xa nhau. Đợi ta tô sắp xong rồi. Giờ mình sẽ tô đến hai tay này nha mọi người.
And now the next case.